Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
There is no doubt. I was already sure of it last week, but this morning it is 100% confirmed. The federal government via Homeland Security is staging false flag, false start, false identification of pipe bombs all over the United States right now. And this is a psyop to create an atmosphere of total fear. And it doesn't matter if we talk about San Francisco or New York City today, all over the country, Spokane, Washington, you name it, the feds are coming in through the threat fusion centers and openly announcing that they're federalizing the cities in the name of anti-terror. And then magically the cities, in the case of Austin, millions of dollars to purchase defense contractor-made high-tech robots for bomb disposal. We've never had a bomb in Austin. They're gearing up, and all over the country, the robots are being purchased. The SWAT teams are being expanded. The police are being trained that right-wing groups are going to start pipe bombing them. And then magically, all over the country, pipe bomb detonations stop traffic off of I-680. Then you actually get into the news article, and it says what East Bay investigators were forced to shut down traffic on southbound Interstate 680 multiple times yesterday evening as bomb squad detonated several possible pipe bombs discovered in the storage facility. Now, I've been studying this for a long time, and later in the hour I'm going to explain how they're operating and what they're doing. But I have seen the Austin Police Department, the state police, and others commit crimes that are just off the charts. Crimes of hysteria, crimes of yelling fire in a theater, fake nuclear spills in Kyle to shut down I-35 and to have checkpoints. Fake bio releases. They've done psych warfare tests on the state police administrative building. I, of course, jumped into the live news, said that it was fake, bluffed the news and said, I know this is fake and you're part of it, because I'd actually heard them talking about how it was staged over at their truck right before they went live. But I bluffed and said I had the proof. I was unable to tape it. They then capitulated, went on the news and admitted it was a drill. I mean, I've actually fleshed these people out. That's how I sent the director of Access TV to prison. I went in, with a recorder and said, I know you guys are taking money. And then they kind of just started flubbling and then, admitting to it. It's a standard cop trick. But cops aren't really cops anymore. They're federal errand boys on average. And the good ones are compartmentalized. But, I watch the federal government, Clinton, Bush, Obama, same thing. Fake terror attacks, fake car bombs in Belton, fake attacks on schools. You see them all the time where they go into a public school with elementary kids, high schoolers, every cross-section announce, we're the militia, here to kill you. And then the parents freak out when they find out it wasn't real and that the kids were told it was real, and the kids are traumatized and screwed up. It's mind control, and it's setting the precedent. This is a giant re-education camp, this whole country, and I'm not going along with it. And we've got their internal documents how it's to break our will and condition us to have learned helplessness and to teach your elementary kids to put their hands up and go get on the bus and be taken to a FEMA center. We confirmed that by 1999, the confirmed internal school board documents in places like Missouri. And so I've seen this over and over again. I know what we're dealing with. Now, if they stage enough fake pipe bomb attacks, schizophrenics, copycats, mentally ill people are going to start detonating pipe bombs. In most cases that we actually catch real people with pipe bombs, for whatever reason in the criminology, it's a fire department employee or a police officer. There are real pipe bombings in this country, and generally it's government employees doing it for some reason.
He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Wednesday, the 19th day of January 2011. We're going to be live here for the next 3 hours. Of course, Lindsey Williams 3 months ago here on air talked about his 2 oil company exec connections, one of which he's now been able to reveal the name of because he's succumbed and died of cancer. And Lindsey Williams, of course, said that his sources, who've been very accurate in the past, said that oil would go up from $60 a barrel to $150 to $200 in the next year, and then it would start going up almost immediately, and it did. Of course, 2.5, 3 years ago, back in 2008, when oil was down at $60 a barrel or so, he said it was going to $150. It went to exactly that, $149 and change. Then, when it was still going up, Williams came out and said, now it will start going down. With precision, it went down. And I noticed that when I went to Bilderberg right around that same time, that was the intel we got from Jim Tucker, who was there on the ground and does have moles inside the Bilderberg Group organization, was that the people were getting too angry, over the fact that they'd increased the oil prices so that they would now drop them after a time, and they even pegged the dates on that. So just incredible. And people have really requested that he come back on the broadcast, so he'll be with us here with some new information that he got from the other living former CEO of a big 3 oil company. We cannot release his name at this time. He's alive, but he's well-known, hidden in plain view, just like Mr. Ken Frum was. Williams will be joining us, and I'm really excited about having Matías Rojas from Chile joining us. He's the gentleman whose video in just the last 2 days has gotten, just on one YouTube version, 250,000 views, altogether about 400,000 views just in the videos I saw on YouTube without spending more than 30 seconds counting up the numbers. It's probably 1 million have already seen it. What an example of standing up and fighting for liberty, going up and confronting David Rockefeller. And I talked to Mr. Rojas yesterday via video Skype from Chile, and we're going to have him joining us via video Skype, unless there's any technical problems, coming up in about 1 hour and 20 minutes from now. He gave me the full scoop and says he wants to tell the whole story on air, other things that went on. So we'll see if he wants to give you his sources and how he was there. He was actually waiting for Mr. Rockefeller. Very powerful confrontation. And the reason these confrontations are so important is it's not just the citizens going out to some big, armored event with 30,000 National Guard and 30,000 police from all over the East Coast with giant black fence barricades to keep you away from the president. All of that security, all of that pageantry, the buck stops here, is sold and driven to make you believe the president actually is running things, so the president can take the blame for the globalist agenda, and then so the president can be politically torn down later, and a new puppet brought in who then is crowned, the leader, and then they can be politically destroyed. They take all the slings and arrows, while the real owners, the Queen of England, the Dutch Queen, Queen Beatrix, people like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, Bill Gates, Ted Turner, and all of them have secret meetings that even come out in mainstream news, ABC News, Times of London. Secret meeting of world's elite about how to set up world government to reduce population. They want a world government to reduce population. What did the head of the Goddard Space Center, head of research for NASA, number 3 guy in NASA, what did Mr. Hansen say again this week? We need to be authoritarian like China. They're the model. They're the future. America's a joke. And then he blames our liberty for it and says, you're not going to have an economy unless you give in to the global government and the carbon tax. And he calls for China and others to put tariffs on us if we don't accept carbon taxes when China is exempt from the stinking things. This is the treason. And I'm going to get into China coming up. I'm only building up to that. That's the big news. But I want to really focus on that when we come back in the next segment. So for now, I'm going to tell you what's coming up today and cover some of it while we're at it. Later, I'm going to get into fake staged events, fake pipe bombing events going on all over the country, government run, to usher in the FBI takeover of the streets of America via Homeland Security. And I've caught the federal government before Homeland Security even existed under FEMA, right here in Region 6, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times. I have caught them so many times that I was trying to remember it this morning, and more and more examples popped up, more articles we wrote, more video we shot of fake nuclear spills, fake terror attacks, fake car bombings, where they announce hours or days later it was fake. And I'd come up to these and I'd see press sitting around giggling and going, oh, yeah, this helps them with the training. And I go, excuse me. And the little, newscasters on a power trip and says, get away from me, Jones. So I just jump in front of the live camera when they go live and say it's completely fake. I call up the news director and I go, I've got the proof this was fake and you came out here for the drill. So they went on that night and said, oh, it was a drill. The fake attack at the DPS building, that they have such mind-controlled employees, there were all these women collapsing and going to the hospital. All they had to do was have one person say they smelled something, who was part of the PSYOP psychological test, collapse, and half the building was collapsing over there. See, these PSYOPs, it's a psychological suggestion. Basically a psychological implantation. And that's what all these terror drills and this stuff are. And then once they get you in the re-education camp level, this is what the whole country is, a giant sports stadium, re-education camp, like out of Red Dawn or something, but the whole country is being turned into that, with these weak-minded people that just receive whatever the news says is real. And all over the country, I see it every week where they go into elementary schools, businesses, and they announce, we're going to kill you. We're the militia against government. We're the militia against public schools. And they're told the federal grants to say this. We're the militia for the Second Amendment. Again, to create a trauma with people against the Second Amendment. They found that the weak-minded unconscious, if they're told, guys in camo are screaming, I'm going to blow your 5-year-old's head off, and then the kid comes home, soiled pants, everything else, and they call the school and they go, well, Michigan, it's happened all over. It's a federal drill. We have to follow that script. And the parents usually don't blame. Most of them, they go, oh, I understand. You're preparing for the homeschoolers to attack. You're preparing for the militia. And they go, those dirty militia. Because subconsciously the parents know the school's evil, know the government's engaged in mind control, in crossing boundaries, TSA sticking their hands down your pants, body scanning you. It's all about pushing boundaries. That's why Ted Turner and Hansen at NASA and Dr. Pianka at UT, literally thousands of them. I mean, every day, without looking, I see big academics, the head IPCC, UN author, scientist of the whole carbon tax takeover. I mean, it's every day, several times a week, Watson writes articles about it, where they say, we need authoritarianism, it's good. Just like in the 30s, when authoritarianism was being promoted as the solution to all the ills, how great Hitler was, how great Mussolini was, how great Stalin was. Our news in the 20s, 30s, 40s, right up until 1939, 1940, it was Adolf Hitler is good. We need to save the environment, be vegetarians. He was a rock star in the U.S., just worshipped. I mean, that's on record. You're supposed to forget that. Stalin was Uncle Joe, admired. The Communist Party was the 3rd biggest party in the U.S. We were told how good Stalin was. We were told, and George Bernard Shaw and all the top liberals, Nobel Prize winners, Bertrand Russell would get up and say, Mussolini, Mussolini. Of course, later they all flipped against him. So it's, oh, Hitler, oh, Mussolini, oh, sweet cupcake. Just like the CIA now admits they helped put Mao into power in '49. And David Rockefeller's written multiple editorials praising Mao for what he did and his great community of purpose, and that he was an example to the world. And then I open up the January issue of 2010. This is just one I saw laying around a few weeks ago and picked up. Every issue. You know, the latest is the 7 billion bomb, how our world will change. They're telling us we're going to have total tyranny to save us from that. I have another one. I guess it's been taken out of the room from a year ago, where it's the Singapore model, how great it is. China is adopting it. Europe is looking to adopt it's horrible tyranny, but it's like slitting your wrist and getting into a hot bath. It feels so good. That's an actual quote. And it's just how sexy it is. Oh, man. They have the highest level of suicide. They're only having 1.2 kids. They're dying. This is sexy. This is as sexy as the case for killing Granny and all the creamy fetishes in Newsweek and Time Magazine. Every time I read it, it's all articles about suicide, and they got shows on MTV about aborting babies, and they're writing poetry about how beautiful and vampiric it is. Oh. I mean... And so they're just hyping this group of fad-driven airheads out there that totally being overrun by China, Chinese flags going up, China lecturing us, saying we own you now, your dollar's not going to be the currency soon, Obama bowing to him again yesterday, bowing last year. This is all done on purpose, sticking hands down pants, calling for tyranny, Jack Bauer torturing kids in front of their parents, the Washington Post admitting the CIA tortures kids in front of their parents, and having a CIA section chief in it bragging how cool it is and how effective it is, and Rumsfeld joking about taking the gloves off. They're just getting us into an evil culture. The Romans wrote of why they had the gladiatorial events. It was to train people to see their neighbors being killed so that next month when they were being killed in the arena, arrested for no reason, their neighbors would cheer while they were killed. See, humans are peer pressure driven. And so, again, just like the Aztecs, it was fashionable and cool. Women were honored to give their baby to the government, and they just cut the baby's heart out right in front of mommy, and mommy would just say, "Praise Quetzalcoatl. Oh, praise Chalkmule. Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so good."
Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Ooh, Lordy,
Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., many days 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. we go into overdrive. Back Sundays 4 to 6 p.m. I am Alex Jones, your host. Many days this happens, but I can't think of a time in recent 6 months or so that I have been this upset at my core, and also not feeling even worthy to bring you this information. It's so big, it's so powerful, it's so real, that to say that the communist Chinese now own the United States isn't even the tip of the iceberg. It is worse than that. It is all publicly on record that it's been planned. But China is only one layer of this. And so I want to go through what's happening currently and the ways that Hu Jintao has been publicly humiliating the United States at the pre-agreement with this criminal government, and why this is being done. It's very nuanced. But to sum it up, on record, Mao Zedong was put into power by the CIA and British intelligence. That's been released. That's even on the History Channel. It's admitted. They put him in power. The Russians wanted to nuke in the late 60s. That's now been declassified. China, they were worried about them. They could do the prospectus and the actuary on their rising power. They wanted to have a joint nuke on China. The United States said no. Russia was only confirming for itself that a secret behind-the-scenes deal had indeed been made. And there were cross deals with Russia as well. These are power groups working with each other, but also fighting with each other. But they believe in the power of the state. They believe in the power of the collectivist. They believe in transhumanist, social Darwinistic eugenics. And they've all signed on to the United Nations, and they're attempting to use it as a global vehicle where all of them tie into it, attempting to expand their geopolitical imperiums And the corporations that profit from this sit above China, above the U.S., above Russia, and have vastly more wealth than the so-called debt. The United States is reportedly a little over $1 trillion in debt to the Chinese. $28 trillion in just the first year and a half of the banker bailout was paid to undisclosed offshore banks. A lot of it China, a lot of it EU, a lot of it private banks, brokerage firms, governmental central banks. When I talk about China and the EU, $28 trillion on their investments with J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, and others, the 6 mega banks. So we're told we have to be humiliated by China. Obama is publicly bowing to Hu Jintao, a dictator thug by any yardstick, who runs the country, who's got the biggest kill of human skulls around their neck of any country ever. Conservatively 60 mil under Mao alone. I mean, they have sports stadium executions every week in every city. Every major city has 14 mobile execution vans for petty crimes. You are just executed and you are gutted on the way to the airport. It's iced and flown into Japan, where rich Europeans and Westerners and Chinese and Japanese get the goods. Falun Gong are their favorite fruit because they're peaceful, they're non-resistant, they are complete vegetarians and health nuts, and so they are kept blood-typed and kept in jail cells and fed well for when their organs are to be sold. This is all public. There's so many facets. How do I even begin here? Harry Reid, of course, is in a lot of trouble for calling Hu Jintao a dictator. He actually got a slip of the tongue, kind of like Dick Cheney 3 times, Rumsfeld 4 times, said a missile hit the Pentagon. Then they talked about many times the shoot down of Flight 93, which the state police saw, the F-16s and the missiles, and they have the AIM-9 recordings of NORAD. We even know what unit, the Happy Hooligans out of the Dakotas, now disbanded, assigned to Virginia for drills. A general said, I don't care if there's a stand down. That thing's going into the Capitol. AIM-9, take it out. 2 AIM-9s, take it out. We even know the name of the general. They even had an award ceremony for it. Of course, I had Colonel Don de Grand Prix, former Black Ops commander, on to tell you that, and he was dead 2 weeks later. But we interview a lot of people that die, the D.C. Madam and others. Anyways, we'll be right back with that information. I'm sorry, I'm digressing. We're going to get into China in a big way. You want the full, deep understanding and scope and exactly what's coming in the future if they have their way. We're going to break it all down straight ahead. Stay with us.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space. And when you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough.
I knew too much.
I just knew too much.
Does that make me crazy?
Does that make me crazy?
Does it make us crazy?
Does that make me crazy?
Because we accurately predict the future? Because we understand the geopolitical factors and leaders? Because we study their own battle plans that are public? This is a big world. They have to publicly coordinate their operations. They always have a cover story, but right behind it, they have their admitted goal. And for the New World Order, world government is only the beginning. Bless your soul. Do you really think you're in control? That's what I'd say to the New World Order crowd out there. All right, let me do it. Let me break down the China situation as calmly as I can. China, of course, was the ally of the United States in World War II. The United States was already promoting socialism towards communism in the United States. Deals were made with China. Chiang Kai-shek was given faulty armaments. The right wing in America said that it was all staged. Decades later, it was declassified. That Mao Zedong was put into power by our government. But in the name of fighting the red Chinese threat and the Russian threat, a police state apparatus was built, witch hunts were expanded, attacks on free speech, federal control from behind the scenes under the guise of national security of Hollywood. All of that got cemented into place. Now, it's not that our owners, the robber barons, are really communist. As Carroll Quigley, the Georgetown political science head, Bill Clinton's main mentor, wrote, he was given access to the globalist, what he called the British Roundtable Committee documents for several years, to write a 1,000-page tome for the planetary controllers so that they would have a couple thousand copies to give to high-level State Department, CIA, and others. He published it on a limited run, and it was a private publishing that was done, and it was only several thousand copies printed and given to high-level gophers in government so they could understand how things really work and operate. The plates, of course, were surreptitiously smuggled, and it was reprinted brazenly by patriots in the 1970s. And I loaned it to a newspaper reporter about 2 years ago, and he never gave it back. In fact, I want Aaron Dykes, if you have to, go over to that guy's house. I know he lives here in Austin. I want my 10 books or so we loaned him back. Side issue, let's just order another one online. I think they're like $50, though. It's a big hardcover. The one I have is actually an original. But original reprinting from the 70s. It's thousands of dollars for one of the original. I think it's $2,000. But see, that's the problem with history. I say I'm going to give you detail. I'm going to break this down. This is all facts. This is all massive knowledge proving everything I'm saying. So I don't want to just make statements here about what China's doing and where we're going in the future. The point is, Quigley said, we use communism, we use fascism, we use socialism, anything that collectivizes the general public to get control of them. And then we'll use a fascist leader, a dictator, a communist leader, socialism. We don't care. We want power centralized in very few hands so we can move towards this global corporate state where there will be no freedom. And he went on to say, I believe humans want to live in tyranny. This is our natural state. This is a good thing. He also published publicly the Anglo-American establishment and bragged about that, kind of a public book, but watered down a bit. And that's only, I think, 300 pages long. I read that when I was about 15 years old, but I haven't read it since. Like, that was the first book of Carroll Quigley I read. But the plan was always to build up China to menace Russia, while the United States was used to fund Russia and give it armaments and secrets, and Ford and GM and all of them, huge factories building army trucks, and U.S. engineers helping build the Russians' nuclear reactors, giving them the A-bombs and then killing the Rosenbergs as patsies. Because again, if you look at this as Russians or Chinese or Americans, you're blind. This is the global banking cartel who funded both sides in World War I, who funded all the sides in World War II, who going back more than 300 years in Europe in those endless wars was constantly funding all the different armies, all the different sides. And they don't care. They always got paid. And governments would crack down on the public. The public would tend to roll over and let them take their land and let them tax them into poverty. If, after all, it was a war, if, after all, their firstborn son didn't come back from the front, you bet they were willing to starve to death and have their other younger kids with their ribs sticking out because Junior got killed fighting Napoleon or vice versa. Meanwhile, Napoleon was publicly being funded by the Rothschilds and other major banking houses, and so were the Brits. There was the Rothschild family in France funding Napoleon on record. And when Napoleon took over the first time, they got more land than his new royal house he set up got. That's why almost all the good vineyards in France now are Rothschild. I mean, just like the big banks now of the 600-plus islands off Greece worth billions apiece, private bankers are getting their own individual islands. That's how Greece is paying them And the bankers sold Greece the derivatives and made the profit, and now we're saying, oh, you can't pay this other stuff back. Here, give me your islands. I mean, this is carpetbagging on a scale that makes the mind spin. You know what carpetbagging was? The South was completely wasted, burned, destroyed by Sherman, and there's just starving people all over the place, and here comes people with money with their big carpet bags buying everything up for pennies on the dollar. That's what carpetbagging is. The globalists are wreckers. You go back to every culture, and at key straits around the world, they would build fires in foggy bad weather to confuse ships and think that they were lighthouses to bring them into port, to wreck them on shoals so that they could then, under laws that all those countries, England, France, Aboriginal systems had the same laws that, well, if a ship's wrecked, it's not stealing, it's fair game, whoever can salvage it. And if a ship runs into rocks, quarter mile out to sea, it's freezing cold, almost everybody's going to die. Then you go out when the fog clears and get all the goods out of the wrecked ship. That's what corporate raiding is. They go in, take control of a company. They're never going to pay the stockholders. They just sell everything off and then bankrupt it and keep the profit for themselves. That's what the New World Order is. And then you're homeless, so you can't stand up to them. They don't just not care if you become homeless or if you lose your job or you lose your farm or your self-sufficiency. They don't want you to have it. And a lot of folks are saying, where does China come into this? Oh, it's going to come into it. So it is on record that our government set China up from the beginning. And 100 years before that, China was divided into 12 parts, and the U.S. had its own sector. China's already been run by the West for hundreds and hundreds of years. How'd they do it? Drug trade. The Chinese made heroin illegal, opium illegal. And they just came right in, and they bought off all the police and the military and the population because the Chinese made it illegal. It made there be huge profits, and that's how British and U.S. intel, the Germans got their piece, the French got their piece. The French ran Vietnam because they had to get that opium out of there and out of Laos and out of Cambodia and sell it up to the Chinese. And that was a way to control them. I mean, you think all these Prozac ads, all these beer ads, all these drug ads are an accident? They figured all this out a long time ago. So, China's been New World Order run for several hundred years. The Japanese got too big for their britches. Thug governments all act the same. Doesn't matter if it's our government, Ahmadinejad, doesn't matter if it's the Japanese. You know, avarice-filled, dominating men of power who are ruthless and who enjoy war and destruction and control, they rise to the top, as all philosophers have noted throughout history, because good men lay down to them. Good men are more intelligent, stronger, better, everything. But we have a blind spot. We can't believe it's happening to us. We can't believe other people are like that. We want to buy into the fake little narratives of the people, you know, singing the Star-Spangled Banner while the flag still waves at a football game and all the guys crying, they're there with their son. Meanwhile, what America was and what that flag symbolizes and all the blood that went into it, a great idea, the most noble in our history, has been destroyed. But you don't care. You just want the symbol. You want the symbol above the substance. If I could have the liberty back and if the people could awaken from their slumber and their trance, I would rather have freedom in this country than that flag. The only reason the flag has any positive meaning is because it symbolized the spirit of 1776, which the system has tried to defile and pull down and demonize, because it wasn't perfect, but it's the best that's ever been. Now, this China situation, China has been set up, China has been deployed, China has been built up with tariffs and taxes and regulations and carbon taxes, and all these other fines and fees and controls on our industries, on our power plants, the environmental rules, the workers' comp, all of it. And a lot of it is, great on the surface. But China and India and Mexico and 160 plus other third world countries are completely exempt from this global government. The global government is run by the big mega banks and mega corporations and retail corporations that are their subsidiaries who openly write the international rules. So they write the rules where it's hard to have a job here in the U.S., it's hard to develop anything. Big Agri tries to pass more rules to shut down farms and ranches to make it nearly impossible to even provide our own food. Once the breadbasket of the world, now can't even supply our own food in many cases. We're being brought down. We're being made dependent. We're being put under siege. How do you make a city fall, a nation fall? You put it under siege. You cut its food and water off. You cut its intellect, its will to fight off. This is all psychological warfare by the globalists who play the U.S. off against Russia, Russia off against China, China off against Japan, China off against South Korea, South Korea off against North Korea, the U.S. off against China. It's all back and forth while the bankers sit up above it. They've stolen more than 50 trillion total globally, and that's, again, an old number. 28 trillion in the U.S., disappeared, won't say where it is, but we're told on CNN, in the AP, all over the news, yes, it's China. America's done. China is the boss. China is great. China is the model. China knows best. It's not father knows best, it's China knows best. We've got a leaderless, fatherless country. We've got a childlike nation of dumbed-down people who've been taught that being weak is cool. And then you've got a giant mechanized slave country. And I know a lot of folks that have lived in China and been there. I mean, the police will just cut your testicles off in the middle of the street for fun, and you'll routinely just see people on the street corner with their pants pulled off and police walking by laughing with their genitals cut off. I mean, it is, we were sent video by a guy that's done graphics for us because his girlfriend's Chinese. He stayed a few months over there, of youth brigades marching in the middle of cities, just with red flags. And I mean, it is creepy. Troops marching, total telescreens with troops announcing China's taking over. We're going to get the U.S. Their top generals are in the news every day saying we're preparing for war. The U.S. is our enemy. Meanwhile, our media is, oh, China is so good. By the way, I'm not joking about that. The police, it's just a reign of terror over there. Paul Watson's wife is Chinese. She speaks perfect English and lived in England most of her life. The point is, she's Chinese. She has family in China. He was over there with her, and they just wrote an article about the Rand Corporation wanting to have war with China in the future. And her family and people got questioned, and she got put on a list and was told, you better not write for prisonplanet.com anymore. That's the authoritarianism of China. Reaching into England, reaching into prisonplanet.com, reaching into my free speech. And now, oh, Harry Reid better not call Hu Jintao a dictator when that's what he is. He is a dictator. He's elected by a committee of dictators. So it's a dictatorship of the inner party. And man, you see films of their party conferences. What a group of preening, sycophantic devils. It's not about their art, their literature, their inventions, what they've done. It's all that their grandparents were murderers with Mao Zedong and knew how to sycophantically lick his boots. China is a giant North Korea that the elites in the West openly saw and went and funded and empowered and tilted the playing field to give China everything. And then when Americans point out how we've been deindustrialized, we're told, shut up, fat, dumb Americans. It's your fault this has happened. Really? Have you read NAFTA and GATT? Have you read the WTO rules? On taxes, China's much lower. Environmental regulations, there are none. Their rivers literally catch on fire routinely. Carbon taxes, harassment of power plants, they build 2 to 3 a week. We build 2 a year. Zero. Everything tilted for them. They have to put nets up at all their major factories that make the Apple goods and others because they were having suicides every lunch hour. The people are chained to their systems. Around a third of the population lives in giant public prisons that are locked at night. You're locked in your house, locked in your neighborhood. Your children are taken at birth and trained and brainwashed and turned against you. Then they are sent to work half the week at factories. 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds. What's our government's answer? More regulations, more taxes, more carbon taxes. Now, what's going to happen with China? It isn't that Americans are dumb idiots and buy the Chinese slave goods that break by the time you get it out of the box half the time, that are covered and dripping with every poison you can imagine, and the melamine-filled milk and the poison drugs, the prescription drugs. It's that you go to a store and 95% of it is made in China. Oh, yeah, people were dumb 30 years ago buying Chinese goods. But now, see, we're held by the throat. The truth is we don't need all this crud. I'm going to come back and break down what's going to happen, what they're doing, and why they're openly over here humiliating us with our president bowing with Chinese flags up and down Pennsylvania Avenue. What's happening is a prison planet is being built. And that's the UN official program. We cover it in Endgame, online bibliography proving it. In whatistheendgame.com, you constantly see the head of space, NASA Goddard Center saying we need to be like the Chinese, we need a global tyranny. You see all these other professors constantly saying we need the Chinese model. We need to sterilize people. We need a one-child policy. Ted Turner a month ago in Mexico. China is the model officially. They have UN meetings there, like the one in '96, the UN Food Program, and they said we will use food as a weapon, as Chairman Mao did in the Great Leap Forward in the Cultural Revolution. I mean, the Chinese have been chosen as the drone rock stars of the New World Order. They are the army. And the Chinese people aren't bad, but they've got a 5,000-year history of being enslaved and being killed and being tortured to death if they don't do what they're told. And there's so many facets to this. We have our media. We have our culture now with almost no criticism ever of China. Just 5-10 years ago, they criticized China, killing people for organs and their secret arrest and things. And now it's just, oh, China is wonderful. And the Associated Press says, well, it is true. They own our debt. They're kind of like our landlord now. I have the quotes here. They're in Paul Watson's article today. There's two articles, actually. Meet the New Boss, China Owns the United States. That's prisonplanet.com by Alex Jones and Paul Watson. Here's a curtain memo. China plants flag on Constitution Avenue. Now, on paper, the Chinese, quote, own the majority of the debt. But remember, that's 1 trillion, 100 billion or so. Where'd the 28 trillion go? That's 27 times or 28 times what the Chinese supposedly own. This is all just about breaking our will. If the TSA can put their hands down our pants, if we can see Chinese flags, not done for the British, not done for the Russians, not done for the Chileans, not done for anybody. I mean, they put red Chinese dipped in blood flags, blood red, yellow star. That banner's got more dead under it than Hitler and Stalin combined. They put that up and down the street, and now Harry Reid is in the New York Daily News being excoriated, and they lit up the Empire State's Building for China, for their 4th of July, for their National Day. All of Times Square has been turned into a pro-Chinese government event. They're opening restaurants all over Europe and the U.S. called Mao's, and I see kids everywhere wearing red stars. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's fun. It's fun to be a slave. And then I think about national organizations out there. Remember a few months ago, a group against the national deficit ran a minute-long TV ad where a Chinese president, Citizens Against Government Waste, where the Chinese government is up there bragging to a group of college students about how America fell by being in debt to China and how they bought cheap goods and how they had too high a taxes and regulation. That's actually what China teaches. And he then brags, that's why we took over America. That's why we own America. We have links to news articles in China, to TV pieces where the Chinese government is actually pridefully speaking about how we are their enemy, but they own us, and we're pathetic, and we're decadent, and we're bad, and our own media is agreeing. Again, this is about just totally getting us ready to accept any and everything. So I want to come back and go through all the news on this and what this means and what it means to have Obama bowing to him. In fact, we'll show you that again on screen as we go out to break. But I want to tell you the master plan, where all of this is leading, where it's going to go. Then I got another report here. A man died from breathing fluoride. Got a lot more coming up.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Coming up in the next segment, I'm going to get back into China in great detail. And then later in the broadcast, we got Lindsey Williams joining us with new bombshell information. We are live. It is the 19th day on this Wednesday, 2011. 19th day of January. Man dies after house fumigated with same fluoride compound sprayed on food. And Paul Watson and I, along with Steve Watson, did deep research on this in the last few years. And this is the same fumigation system sprayed on already harvested crops. It's sprayed on wheat. It's sprayed on corn. It's sprayed on tomatoes. It's sprayed on grapes in the warehouses to keep the weevils and stink bugs and all the rest of the pest. It was authorized, 6 years ago to be sprayed on the crops. They also have a liquid spray they spray on of another variant of sodium fluoride. But man dies after house fumigated with same fluoride compound sprayed on food. I was looking at my fluoride video that I did last week that I do want to get Watson to add to the article he's written because it's a 10-minute video, and it really shows how the government is now having to admit that sodium fluoride is hurting people in the drinking water. Remember that came out in the Associated Press 2 weeks ago, a government press release? So they're trying to start covering their rear ends. Kind of like for 20 years they denied that Prozac was causing massive suicides, but to cover their hind end, they started putting a little proviso on the insert, hoping you don't read it. Oh, yeah, this stuff, folks, I say a doubling in cancer overall when you drink 1 part per million sodium fluoride for more than 10 years. That's one of the big studies. Actually, it's a tripling in the general public if you average men and women together. It is a 7-fold increase in the U.S. government's own studies in bone cancer in adolescents. And I don't know how 3 times in women, and then you average it with men, how it would be. Well, point is, he's got all the links to the major studies and all of it in that video. And so I was looking at that video up on YouTube this morning, just briefly checking it, because I just love, seeing hundreds of thousands see something that's going to warn people. And it only had like 50,000 views on it. And then I was reading the first comment, and it said, yeah, I was watching local news here in San Jose, and it said that a man broke into a house that had the tents up around it where they fumigate the house for bed bugs or roaches. And I noticed that the sign said fluoride, danger, don't go in, fluoride. Sure enough, I went and found the newscast, and it said fluoride. And it's a type of aerosolized fluoride that is used on the crops that you eat. Again, they have one they spray in the field that's in a water that goes onto it, and if the bugs try to eat it, they die. And of course, you eat it, but no big deal. You're bigger than a bug. He'll die a few years down the road. It's not going to really be noticed that way. A little, kind of like MSNBC said, a little, lead in the toys from China, it's good for you. You think I'm joking? I can play that clip. You think I'm joking? I have clips saying mercury's now good for your children, injected into their blood. Again, it's all about breaking your will, just being out in the open. Yeah, the CIA tortures kids in front of their parents. Yeah, we're putting poison in your food. But man dies after house fumigated with same fluoride compound sprayed on food. Known insecticide toxin was approved for use on fruits, nuts sold to Americans. But what kind of nut goes up to a house that has danger signs all over it and looks like it has a funhouse tent over it? And, of course, then you got to ask yourself, I read about this in New York where they use this fluoride as the main chemical they use on cars that have bed bugs or out-of-control roaches, and they use it even on apartments. They'll do it in an apartment below you and supposedly seal the doors and windows. You know full well it's going up into your apartment or down into your apartment. Just like when your neighbor's smoking cigarettes, you can smell it. I shouldn't laugh. The guy went in and was just killed very fast. But hey, I bet he's got clean teeth, huh? Actually, they admit it causes the teeth to fracture and dental fluorosis, but hey, still, it's good for you. We'll be right back.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
China is the dominant engine of the world government. It is collectivist. Their leaders are bloodthirsty eugenicists who are anti-family, anti-Christianity. They are embraced by the eugenicist elites out of England, the United States, and Europe. If you go back 30 years ago, the Council on Foreign Relations said the 21st century will be the Chinese century. We will be deindustrialized. We'll have a currency war, which will really be a currency devaluation. Then we'll come out with a global ban corps. They also called it the Phoenix. And now the IMF last year officially announced they want the ban corps. That will be partially backed by gold, issued by the private central banks, and also partially backed by the Chinese currency. And we would cover this 15 years ago on air, and people would laugh at us. Oh, China, they could... Now, this is the most important point. I'm coming to it now. China, they can never take over America. China, they can't do anything to us. China has no power. Why, we got 20,000 nukes. You know, the Chinese, they can't even get a rocket into space right. And so Bill Clinton and Laura Allen Hughes give them the ICBM technologies to get their long march into orbit and to be able to hit anywhere in the U.S. But that's not enough to get one ICBM up with only one warhead. That'll only destroy Chicago or Dallas or Los Angeles. You've got to have it when it pops open. It's got to have MERV. It's launched from its launch pads in northern China up over the poles. That's the shortest route. It's coming down over Chicago or New York, back into the atmosphere. The nose cone blows off, and there are 12 to 24 warheads. But you want some dummies, too, so that any ground-based lasers or missile-to-missile systems or railgun anti-missile systems, those are highly classified. That'll get the NSA humming right there. If they're trying to shoot down the warheads, not going to be able to get them all. Okay? So they give them everything. Oh, we'll put more taxes, more regulations, more environmental stuff on the U.S. China, you get none of it. Then we have all our politicians lecturing us. You need to be more like China. The head of the Goddard Space Center yesterday. America's going down because we don't accept carbon taxes. China's smart. They're authoritarian. China's exempt. He knows that. They're giving us a false narrative of why we're about to collapse. We're being told that anything, a cyber attack could collapse the whole economy and cause bank runs and a shutdown of the currency any time now. And 9,000 telescreens are going in, now announcing the cyber attack's coming. Get ready, the whole web could be shut down. Homeland Security's trying to keep it safe. See, they're getting everybody ready for this to happen. And then there'll be pipe bomb attacks all over the country, blamed on domestic groups as they're collapsing it, so that anyone saying no to the collapse of the U.S. under the corporate global government, backed up by their attack dog, the murderous, all-time killer Chinese, the record killers, no one, Hitler, Stalin combined, could not touch them. And now our media, they're good, they're our leader, they're moral. Just all these leaders constantly, Ted Turner, just on and on, praising China, praising. I got a giant stack of news here today praising China, just how they are so wonderful. And I've talked to a lot of friends and family that have been there. China is hellish. And the cops are just completely arrogant, walk around like ring wraiths, just beat or kill whoever they want. It is just lawless evil. But I run into businessmen all the time that are in business with China, and I'll be sitting there just a few weeks ago to get some Mexican food, and I go up to the bar to pick it up. My wife says, hey, I don't want to cook tonight. We put food up. I'm coming home at 5:30. I go, sure. I go in to get the food. I'm waiting at the bar, and there's a guy going, Alex, I've seen your show. Do you know how great China is? You know how wonderful, how they get things done? America's pathetic. They get a problem with an executive there, they just execute them in a week. That's how we need to be soon. And I didn't even argue with the guy. I didn't say, oh, really? That's why their lakes catch on fire and their rivers? Oh, that's why the Communist Party's so filthy rich and they keep the people down and forcibly sterilize the women? Oh, that's really beautiful. But see, it's this sycophantic thing. As long as you go over and grovel to the Chinese communist, then, oh, you're all part of the sickness of it. Same thing in the 30s when Hitler was a rock star in the U.S. My grandfather grew up in Dallas, and the Dallas radio stations would play Hitler speeches and say how great he was, with English over it. Cover in Time magazine, just he is, life books. Stalin's great. Mussolini's great. There's this love affair, and of course, it's not that the elites are stupid and got fooled by Hitler. They were building him up to destroy him. And that could be the case with China. This is very sophisticated here. But if you think of it as America against China, or America against Russia, or Russia against China, or Russia against the U.S., or vice versa, that is in two-dimensional, like playing checkers. This is an advanced game of chess. This is geopolitical stratagem, where you've got the globalists, the robber barons, the banks, that sit above the two-dimensional players of China, Russia, and the United States, all deeply in debt. All their infrastructure is financed through fraud by the banksters. The banksters' wealth is in the quadrillions of fraudulent made-up digits, and their entire global police state is about forcing you to accept those quadrillions as legitimate. Their mega Ponzi scheme, their pyramid of total pyramids. You understand that? They know exactly what they're doing. And so it's a balancing act through the UN, through the IMF, through the World Bank, through all these regional boards where they're always jockeying with each other, playing the nations off against each other, the race to the bottom, the destruction of the middle class, the destruction of the infrastructure, always competing with the authoritarian China, who takes their 10-year-olds and puts them in slave factories. They're now openly saying they may drug the water supply in China to stop the epidemic of suicide. See, it's not that the society's sick, it's that you're sick because you don't like working 18 hours a day in fumes in the iPad factory. So that our kids can be in the matrix, not communicating with friends and family, just staring into their iPad or their iPhone. Not saying an iPhone or iPad is evil of itself. How it's being built is evil. What it's doing to us, what we're allowing to happen is evil. Now, there's also a war on being able to recognize evil. They tell us there is no evil. Let the government do whatever it wants, but then it moralizes to you all day about how you should feel guilty and give up your rights. So that's the key to understanding this. China, we are being told, is the owner of America. We're seeing the Chinese flags. The AP says that's to let Americans suspicious of China know they shouldn't be suspicious. No, it's meant to throw it in our face. It's meant to get us ready for more outrages. We're being dragged through the mud. We're being conditioned to accept all of this. That's what Richard Nixon was about. That's what Bill Clinton was about. That's why all of it came out, that he was doing all these things with cigars and lying and raping women and selling things out to communist Chinese and murdering Ron Brown and blowing up Oklahoma City. It's meant to just get you to where you totally just accept that they do that and they get away with that. Just like the TSA is going to put their hands down your pants to train you. And now it's in the news that even if you refuse the naked body scanners, they make you walk through them, though. See, it's just that little act of submission. Okay, I'll arrest you if you don't do exactly as I say. You're allowed to opt out. Just a regulation, all made up. But I want you to go ahead and walk through anyways in front of the people. And they admit that's to condition everybody else watching that it's safe. They don't want to see one of the sheep not going into the slaughter pen, even if you're not going to slaughter that Judas goat, you know, the goat that leads in the other sheep, but then goes out on the other side. They're making you become a Judas goat. It's all animal psychology. The minute you use your higher order thinking, the minute you start scanning their scams, the minute you start analyzing what they're doing, the minute you decide to not just receive it like a chump, it's all over. But it's up to you. So, here we are. And they're humiliating us with these announcements of how China runs our country. And they're overrunning the nation and filling all the new people that are brought into the country that could be helpful parts of the nation to empower the country with their own nationalism to hate the United States so they can balkanize us and all control us. And it's that same strategy globally. The global government is a global corporate empire that has all the wealth, and then now they're basically scapegoating China as our owner. But they're scapegoating them by saying how powerful they are, by saying how great they are, by saying they run America. Remember how they did that in the 80s with the Japanese, and Americans were all upset. The Japanese are buying up America. The Japanese done got us. The Japanese were being taken over by the central banks. The central banks were the ones doing it, and they got Japan suckered in to the fast money, and so that incredibly productive country has been in a 15-year depression and is never coming out of it. And it's the same thing. China is a horrible hellhole, and by the globalists praising it and giving it pride, in China, that makes the people not rebel against their government, the good people of China, who have been rebelling with pickaxes and hoes and shovels and beating the police and military in provinces all over the country. I've seen the videos on YouTube that are snatched down quickly of just farmers who are sick of having their family land taken, who are starving to death, just running with hoes and attacking police, who then start shooting them. And then you just see the farmers overrun everyone, and then the tape cuts out. And our government, oh, pull that off YouTube. Don't let people see that. That'll embarrass our Chinese friends. So this is meant to make the American people hate the Chinese people. The Chinese media is always demonizing the U.S. That's meant to have their people hate us. While it's just the corrupt, bloodthirsty elite of China with the corrupt, bloodthirsty elite of America and Europe and the UN, they're all teamed up building this global government that's designed to actually cull out most of the population, because we're not just cheap. Life isn't just cheap. It's seen as negative. So the big issue here is that the global government is a corporate fraud government that sits above all the countries, and they're playing us off against each other. We'll be right back. China has a 100 million population. India is now over 1 billion. Both countries are firmly under globalist control. And they will just play the nations off against each other and will export Chinese authoritarianism worldwide. You know, it just came out yesterday that China is now giving more money to the third world than the IMF every year. And when you hear about the IMF, that means our money. They take our money that we back up with taxpayers, and the private bankers openly go in and say, here's the money, now you got to spend it with this private company. That's on record. That's all been leaked. The BBC's covered it. And it was IMF World Bank loans that started China. And now Americans buying cheap Chinese slave goods have financed what's happened. And like a dealer, and that's what China is, selling us crack, the American people cannot stop buying the Chinese slave goods. They have sold their liberty, their freedom, their future. They've deindustrialized us in the name of the Xbox, in the name of Connect, that face scans you and tracks everything you do in your house and has a microphone and a camera that watches you in your home. And the government admittedly is dialing in to these systems and watching you, and the OnStar. I mean, and selling us that authoritarianism is good. There's this conversion into tyranny happening, and China is there to lead the way. And when they, quote, give countries, you know who mines the majority of the minerals, rare earth minerals now out of Australia? It's not even the British government. It's the Chinese. And the Australians are freaking out. I mean, the Chinese are coming in, taking over almost every mining city, and they're demanding stakes in the, in the domestic minerals themselves and actually taking the country over. And they control over 90% of rare earth minerals that go into all the gadgets as well. They have a strategic plan because they're the collectivist model. And where does David Rockefeller spend a lot of time? Who was involved in creating the system? David Rockefeller, who admittedly set up the modern UN as we know it. That's how powerful these people are. And so they're going to use China to muscle out what's left of Western industry and everything else and force that giant sucking sound, that complete implosion of the economy that will render us subservient and dependent on them. But we must not hate the Chinese people. They are fighting back. They want freedom. You know, our media back in Tiananmen Square halfway praised them. Today they're decried. The Dalai Lama is kicked out the back of the White House. He's called a feudal dictator by the news. And he's certainly not perfect, but compared to the Chinese communists, I mean, they did take over Tibet. They do force Tibetan women to marry Chinese males. And, of course, they're all Asian, but the point is forcing you to marry, ending the culture. The globalists want to end all cultures. Again, they sell the communist Chinese murderers like they're rock stars. And that's what this is about. But it'll also create, at a subconscious level, envy. Americans love thinking they're number one. They're real into that. When America that has been dead a long time, I'm trying to resurrect it. We could do it with your help. So it's having the other effect of people calling for more defense spending and feeling incredibly threatened, which is what the Rothschilds would always do. They'd sell one armament to the Austrians, and then the French had to have the better one. And then the Austrians had to have the better. Then the British had to have, and always one-upping each other. So this is the perfect way to enrage Americans, coming out and saying China owns America and putting Chinese flags up everywhere in Washington. Now, let's go to this clip put out by Citizens Against Government Waste that was banned on History Channel, ABC, Discovery Channel, and dozens of other channels. This is not allowed to air in America because you can't be critical of our new owners, who themselves are owned by the bankers that make them look like paupers. Here's the clip of the Chinese professor. Beijing, China, 2030. Why do great nations fail? He's teaching the commies. The ancient Greeks, the Roman Empire, the British Empire, and the United States of America. They all make the same mistake, turning their backs on the principles that made them great. America tried to spend and tax itself out of a great recession. Enormous so-called stimulus spending, massive changes to health care, government takeovers of private industries, and crushing debt. Of course, we own most of their debt. So now they work for us. And that is actually what is taught in China.
You have to join Citizens.
That is actually what is taught in China, and that is what is in their news. Chinese general says ready to nuke U.S. You know, that's sub-launching the missile. And our military is just busy training to take our guns and, fighting Muslim terrorists publicly funded by the CIA. Again, the globalists fund the communists, they fund the Nazis, they fund the Muslim extremists. A lot of them don't even know they're being funded from, upline, downline. This is geopolitical master stratagem. And this is not my opinion. I didn't just figure this out. I read Dr. Henry Kissinger. I read Dr. Brzezinski. I read the stuff Newt Gingrich has put out, who's praising Obama.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run.
Well, I won't back down.
Reducing tensions and building economic ties. And we hope this progress continues because it's in the interests of both sides, the region, and the United States. Indeed, I reaffirmed our commitment to a one China policy based on the 3 U.S.-China communiques and the Taiwan Relations Act. I told President Hu that we appreciated China's role in reducing tensions on the Korean Peninsula.
The Indonesian citizen,
that North Korea must avoid further provocations.
Up there with Hu Jintao, the communist Chinese dictator. He is elected by the Communist Committee, that is a group of dictators. So the appointed frontman of a committee of filthy rich, corrupt dictators who wallow with the wealthy robber barons of the West to destroy the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. And, of course, he bowed to him again yesterday. He bowed to him again a year ago. Obama hasn't ever found anybody that he didn't want to bow down to. And I was watching some of the press conference. It was about how China is committed in helping the U.S. force through the Copenhagen Treaty. Really, that China is exempt from. And they build 2 to 3 new reactors a week, new power plants. They're also building a lot of nuclear reactors. And we build 2 power plants a year on average, because that's all the government allows us to have. And now the feds have come into Texas that's supplying power to 5 surrounding states, the biggest power generator in the U.S., and has told us we've got to shut down and then pay more. No judge, no jury. Congress didn't pass this Copenhagen, but what's the head of NASA and others call for? They said China's going to put tariffs on us if we don't accept the carbon tax. And, whatever China says, we better do. This is about groveling to China. It's been armed, it's been positioned, it's been put into place, and it's involved expanding worldwide as the New World Order's main hydra of tyranny, because it is a complete nightmare high-tech tyranny over there, on record. And you notice it's a total embracing of it. Covertly, the bankers that run our country, that set up the UN, have funded and created this monster and backed it up in the oppression of its people. And now there's a total embrace of it. Here are some of the headlines, and we're going to our guest. Meet the new boss. China owns the United States. But again, only through the bankers who sit above them. Continuing, China plants a flag on Constitution Avenue. Never before done. Hundreds of flags all over Pennsylvania Avenue, just flaunting it, so that when his lordship drove in on the red carpet and walked over the red carpet and then drove in, he would see the Capitol turned into a worship fest for authoritarianism. What does this tell you? What does this say here? Our government grovels to tyranny. Well, of course, we're setting a tyranny up here. Our government has exported tyranny and tried to put dictators in death squads all over the world if the governments didn't serve them. Here's the London Guardian. China on equal footing with U.S. as Hu Jintao visits Washington. The U.S. has been taken over by the banks that got $28 trillion in just the last 2 years that they won't say where it went. But we're told we're owned by China, and they're our boss because they own $1 trillion. China's owned by the very same banking cartel. China's inferiority in hard power has turned Beijing's advantage and sights on its growing soft power abroad. See, the U.S. plays the part of the devil, as I've told you for years, taking over the world, torturing people. The CIA releases the torture, internationally wanting to destroy our name, but then domestically telling us it's good. So that we are now the new Hitler, and when we collapse, the world will rejoice, and then China will rise up with the EU, and that's the planetary regime. Then the U.S. will be rebuilt as a troop-supplying mercenary backwater. That's all been written about, all been planned by the globalist. China logs double-digit growth in the U.S. The U.S. has 2% so-called growth. That's with Cook numbers. That's what slavery does for you. China got stealth tech from Russia, U.S. lawmaker says. Analyst, what is the plan? What's plan B if China dumps its U.S. debt? I mean, what did Hu Jintao say 2 days before coming here? He said the dollar's over. America's over. He knows full well all we've got's the dollar. He knows the decision's been made to devalue it. He knows the decision's been made to make the Chinese currency part of the new world reserve currency 30 years ago by the Trilateral Commission and David Rockefeller. It's all been written about. How did I know exactly what would happen? Because we understand the globalist. And it just continues here with what's happening. We have traitors within our government who can pass laws to shut down our industry to boost the stock in their companies that are overseas, in Mexico, in India, in China, and again, 160 plus other countries. It's very cold-blooded. It allows them to destroy freedom. It allows them to collectivize here as people lose their jobs and now fall onto the social safety net that was just for the poorest, that now is going to be for more than half the public that's on some form of government assistance. You can see where this is going. And the authoritarians are confident because they know having half the public on some type of government paycheck, those people will do and vote for whatever they're told to do by this corrupt system. And that's why we're in deep trouble. They are coming after the free speech. They are coming after the guns. They are coming after your farms and ranches and your homes. And they are going to have unlimited armies of people who couldn't get jobs at McDonald's in uniforms, trained to beat your brains out. So you better take your counties and your cities over. You better get good cops in there and good sheriffs. You better understand they're putting their federalized goons in right now, and that we're in a horrible situation. The CIA is now operating in every major U.S. city. All illegal. Face scanning cameras, total surveillance, all illegal. Satellites with infrared biometric IDs. I told people about this 8 years ago and got laughed at when I had the Department of Defense reports. Alexander Haig was making the money off of it. It says Utah City may use blimp as anti-crime spy in the sky. The blimps are already up there. Most of them at over 100,000 feet. On the clearest days, there's like a little silver dot. The news points cameras at it. ABC News in Utah a few years ago and said, is it a flying saucer? And it looked like the Hindenburg with two black propellers on it with solar panels on the side with infrared cameras hanging off the bottom. And I know the name of the airship company. I know about the billion-dollar contracts, but people couldn't believe there was a surveillance blimp at 125,000 feet. So they wanted to believe it was aliens instead. Remember when I ranted about that? And then I go on big syndicated shows and they make fun of me and go, what's this about imaginary blimps? Here it is in Reuters, okay? They got Homeland Security blimps over every major city. Alexander Haig got the money. They're scanning you, they're following you, they're license plate reading, okay? There's unlimited money to enslave you. It's a criminal government. They can face scan everything, but they can't stop $500 billion a year of drugs coming in. Now, I want to play this video and go to this young man. We'll keep him 5 minutes in the next hour. Then we got Lindsey Williams coming on. He's Matías Rojas. He's 17 years old. When I heard his voice, he sounded very strong, like he was 30, 40 years old. But he is strong. He's got that liberty in his chest, in his heart, in his soul, and that's what's so exciting about standing up to tyrants and hearing that humanity in his voice. You can hear somebody else in the background in Spanish saying, you will fail repeatedly. And it's going to get millions of views. It's already got, on the different versions I saw, 400, 500, I forget, 1,000 views. One video alone, 250,000. This just got posted 2 days ago. And he's got breaking news. He's got an intelligence source. And obviously, the Rockefeller-funded Henry Kissinger coup with Pinochet, where they imprisoned over the years hundreds of thousands, killed tens of thousands. Obviously, it's more of a free country now, but not as much. He wants to use his name. He's got a bunch of sources. I would advise him not to give these sources out of this bombshell info he's got. How he knew where Rockefeller was coming in on the airport, the intel he's about to give you. I don't know if he wants to actually give that source out, or they may shut that source down. But I'll just say, I mean, obviously, this young man is in a dangerous situation, and I'm going to tell him that now. I'm not trying to scare him, but we need to. That's why it's good that he's going public, and that's why it's good that he's getting a lot of attention, because David Rockefeller, we already know, the globalists are all basically moving to South America, and that's the breaking news. And they believe territorially that Chile is theirs. And if they're able to take it back over, you will be put on a death squad list. I mean, that's their main enjoyment. And so just like here in the U.S., if they get their tyranny in, I'm on a death squad list. I mean, that part of that's even been declassified under InfraGard. They have a list of people they want killed immediately, not even arrested. So we're going to play him confronting David Rockefeller and then go to him with some very powerful breaking news. Joining us from Chile, 17-year-old man who people are just marveling at the way he rebuked Emperor Palpatine, known as David Rockefeller. Here it is.
Rockefellers, come back. We don't want your new world order, you know? Leave Chile right now. Leave Chile. You are not... You're killing a lot of people. You're killing a lot of people. Leave here. Leave Chile right now. Leave Chile. Leave Chile. We don't want your world government. Leave Chile right now. Leave Chile, okay? Leave Chile. Your family is the most disgusting in the world, you know? Leave here. Leave. You also, you're a traitor to Chile. Mr. Agustino, you're a traitor to Chile, okay? You're a traitor to Chile. What you're doing right now, okay? 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 You know everything. You know everything. You're participating with him. You're participating with him in this. Your world government will fail, okay? It will fail! Your world government will fail! Will fail! Will fail! You know what? Leave Chile right now! We don't want you here! We don't want your disgusting thing here! Leave Chile now!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the video's up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. You can just search the term Rockefeller confronted in Chile, and you'll get it. But it came out in congressional hearings. Kissinger's been indicted in Spain over it. And, of course, his minion, that's David Rockefeller's minion, that he was responsible for much of the social engineering down there in Chile. And of course, so many other evils worldwide. Mr. Rojas, great to have you on with us via video Skype from Chile.
How are you, Mr. Alex Jones?
I'm good. Well, tell us more about the confrontation, and then you've got some breaking news. But you've got a lot of fans out there. You told me yesterday when we finally got you on Skype that I'm your hero. Well, you're my hero. We're all together. Anybody that stands up against these mass murderers, and I've got the documents on David Rockefeller with his eugenics and the sterilants and the vaccines. Anybody that stands up against this family that openly financed Hitler is a hero.
Well, a lot of people in Chile are waking up right now to this truth that you spell out. And, well, I knew that Rockefeller was coming to Chile because I received an information from a source that, as you said, I cannot reveal right now. But I knew this a day before David Rockefeller arrived to the airport. I was in Santiago de Chile because I had some documents that I had to submit to make something. I don't live in Santiago. I live in Teno, in a countryside, in the countryside of Chile. So I was there with my friend, who is also an info warrior. His name is Pedro Reyes, and I want to also to thank him for being there. You can hear him like in the second 46 saying, "You will fail, you will fail." That's the background voice. But we got there like at 1:10 p.m., something like that. And Rockefeller's plane was going to land at 1:15 p.m. We saw the screen with the flights coming in and coming out, and seeing that the plane was already there. So we lost a lot of hope at that time. We didn't know what to do. We were searching all over the airport. There was a lot of people. We think that famous person like Mr. Rockefeller has to arrive to Chile in some kind of a special way, you know. Well, we began to search for the VIP section or something like that, and we asked a lot of people, where does a person comes from the airport being a millionaire, being an international banker? No one knew about him arriving to Chile. Not even the press reported it. I forced to the press that Rockefeller was going to be here, also with Mr. Agustin Edwards, who is the owner of El Mercurio. But we had a lot of responses, but nothing clear. Then when we turned around to almost leave the place, we were losing a lot of all hope. We found out that David Rockefeller was there in front of us and waiting for some man to put him on the vehicle where Agustin Edwards was at.
Yeah, he's now in a wheelchair.
Yes, he's now in a wheelchair. Well, he's looking. I
don't normally get happy about seeing a person become decrepit, but I tell you, I'm not crying any tears for him. He's one more step towards the mouth of hell opening up for him. He can probably see old Scratch there waiting on him right now.
Yes, many people say that, well, how can you scream at an old person? I say, well, physically he looks like an old person, but in his mind he still has the same ideas. So,
well, did you see him leering at you vampirically, kind of laughing at you?
Like a devil. He seems really like a devil, literally, and his eyes were like red, you know.
No, he looks like Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah. At the beginning, he apparently thought that I was a fan of his, because he smiles and he saluted me with his hands. But after that, after he heard that I was telling him to leave Chile, his face changed, and then he laughed again when I accused him of killing a lot of people, meaning the eugenics programs. He funds the genocide in China, as you mentioned, that he praised Mao, the dictatorships in South America. When I saw him laugh, I lost control. You know, I started to scream even more, even more. So I heard a man sitting from inside the vehicle. I didn't know who was he, saying, "Don't scream, don't scream." I even went a little bit inside the vehicle, and I found out that Agustin Edwards Eastman was there. As you covered yesterday, Agustin Edwards Eastman is the descendant of Agustin Edwards McClure, who was president of the League of Nations.
Yeah, they go way back with the Rockefellers, and of course, Eastman's a huge media magnate. So here is Rockefeller, again, with the power elite of South America. Please continue.
Well, that was a big surprise for me. I didn't know that he was going to be there. Well, I think that he wasn't prepared, Mr. Rockefeller, for this. I mean, and maybe he believes that Chile is like the Cook Islands or something like that, where he can come and leave and no one tells anything, because the bodyguards didn't do anything. Even one of them was even laughing when I was there confronting him.
Well, that's what they do. It's a cover to make you feel powerless. You know, I was played a tape of Rockefeller at Bilderberg that I was not allowed to put on air. The person called his hotel room, and it was Rockefeller, because they knew what hotel he was at. And then he said, "Please call back." This was in 2008. Obama was there. And the person called back, got him, had a discussion about world government with him. But the fellow who was down there covering it from Canada was too scared to let me air it. But it was a very powerful interview. And I was only allowed to listen to it. I was not allowed to be given it. So he's still very, very sharp, but he's 96 years old. Of course, the founder of the Rockefeller family, he had a bet that he was going to live to 100, but he died a few months short of it. So David's trying to make it to 100. Stay there. Matías Rojas is our guest, joining us from Chile. He and his friend got intel from other patriots who understand the globalist agenda about Mr. David Rockefeller, who, if you had to say one person knows where the bodies are buried, one person who was at all the Bilderberg meetings from 46 on, one person, they were really having them since 46. They didn't really start in 54 like they say. One guy who was, in U.S. intelligence before World War II, a guy that his family, gave the UN the land, developed the idea of the League of Nations. They were the ones, along with Cecil Rhodes and the Queen of England at the time. And that's why there he is with the son of the founder of the League of Nations. And here comes a great patriot for Chile, confronting someone who was involved in the overthrow of Chile on September 11th by Pinochet. Now, I want to get into your new bombshell info, because we've got the Bushes, running down to South America and buying hundreds of thousands of acres. We've got so many of the elites leaving the U.S. because they know what they've done. They're getting ready to stage a civil war here. At least that's the word. You've got some bombshell info for us, Mr. Rojas, so drop it on us.
Well, I find out that many elitists are buying land in the south of Chile, both in Argentina and Chile. Ted Turner, for instance, who was the founder of CNN, he has a lot of land in Argentina. Even Henry Paulson has bought a lot of land in Tierra del Fuego in the south of Chile under the Patagonia Conservation Land Trust. The most important here that I wanted to talk about, that is also connected to the Rockefeller Foundation, is Mr. Douglas Tompkins, so-called ecologist and global warming believer and overpopulation believer. These people are crazy. These people believe that the world is overpopulated, but they have a vast lands, and it's like.
Well, no, that's their admitted plan. They say they're going to get rid of us and live on giant plantations.
Exactly. He has more than 2 million acres, both in Chile and Argentina. Pumalin Park, Concorvado Park, and others. And I have here a copy of a newspaper from 2001 where the lawyer of Douglas Tompkins admits that to buy that land they use money from the Ford Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation through grants. Some years ago, and I can send you these links, Alex, to this Chilean news articles, a newspaper called La Tercera covered that covered the fact that Rockefeller is one of the most important people that gives us grants to the ecologists here in Latin America, so they can buy land and give it to UNESCO, as you covered in your film, your first film.
And then they personally move in onto it. Same thing in Mexico. We wonder why we're being overrun with all these poor people. God bless them. It's because in the 70s and 80s, they kicked the people off their ancient land, made them go to Mexico City and then to the U.S. This is so cold-blooded.
Exactly. Well, so you have Mr. Rockefeller and the Rockefeller family and the Rockefeller Foundation has a very special interest in the south of Chile. And you can see that right now because David Rockefeller is moving to the south of Chile now on vacations with this guy, Agustin Edwards, to an island. And
now, stop you there, because you have this internally from a media source. We're going to leave that alone. Same source that told you where he was going to be. David Rockefeller is exiting the United States.
I'm not sure about that, but right now he's here in Chile. According to my source, he will be here at least for 10 days. But you can see how the blueprint for the takeover of Chile is happening in the south, buying all of this land.
But to be clear, then I misheard you. So David Rockefeller is not moving to Chile.
No. Nothing confirmed now.
All right, well, the word I've got is that, well, we know the Bushes and others are all moving down to that general area, but you've got the news articles there about how much land he owns. Amazing. We'll be right back with our guest in 60 seconds, and I look forward to having him back up as a correspondent for us down there in South America in beautiful Chile.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Just the shape of Chile, geographically, I mean, it's a long country, all the way across the western side of South America, running from almost up at the top all the way down to the bottom. So close to Antarctica down at the bottom. Just amazing. I've always wanted to go there. I know a lot of patriots, folks like Dave Von Kleiss and others have moved down there. And I've thought about, when I've been looking at areas in the world, it's one of the safer places in South America if you go to the countryside. It's very beautiful, nice people. I mean, if they start arresting everybody and putting everybody in death camps, and if I can get my family out, I will, but it'll just be out of the fire into the frying pan. But a lot of elitists are moving to Chile, and they're pulling out of Costa Rica and Central America. What do you make of that overall, Matías Rojas, the great patriot who confronted David Rockefeller so handily?
I think that we have to let know to these people that they are not safe anywhere. These elitists.
What? I mean, just let them know that we're fully aware of their activities.
Yes. I wanted to make that, I wanted to let know to Mr. Rockefeller that we are not his slaves. I mean, they have done an incredible job of destroying the values, the family system, everything across the world. I want the people of Chile also to know that they need to find out about this man. CNN even covered the video of my confrontation. The media are now asking, why is this guy, David Rockefeller, meeting with Agustin Edwards here in Chile? We know that at least Sebastián Piñera, who is current president of Chile, called for a world government, literally a world government during meeting EPEC last year. And we know that vaccines are damaging little kids. Here we had a little case of a little child called Max from Talca in the south of Chile who was paralyzed by the H1N1 flu shot.
So it sounds like folks are waking up in Chile, but your politicians are just flaunting it in your face. Are folks aware in Chile that David Rockefeller, over Kissinger, was involved in honchoing some of the Pinochet activities?
Yes, they're very involved in that. There's a lot of documentaries made in Chile about that, about what happened, but they are still trapped by the left-right paradigm. I uploaded this video, and they say that, oh, I am a communist because this takeover of Chile was right-wing. Well, I would say to them that Rockefeller was also involved, praising Mao or praising Fidel Castro in Cuba.
No. They play both sides of the authoritarian right and left, and they try to keep us frozen in that.
Yes. Well, Rockefeller was also involved giving rewards to Ricardo Lagos, a former Chilean president who has called for world governance to fight global warming. You can find his videos. He was a special envoy from the United Nations to South America about this previous to Copenhagen, the meeting. In Chile, we have something called Council of the Americas that's derived from the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission, and was founded by David Rockefeller.
I know. He's founded more than 60 globalist groups, and they praise him at the UN and admit he's the one single-handedly, if you had to pick one person who's been at the center of traveling the world to set up this world government and praising Mao, the biggest mass murderer in history. Matías Rojas, I was going to take off this Friday and take my children camping. Then I got a call from Ron Paul, and he's able to come on Friday, so I'm going to go ahead and do the show Friday, at least the first hour, if we nail that down. Paul Watson was going to be sitting in. I'd like to invite you to stay on the line, and if you can, maybe come on for 30 minutes with Paul Watson on Friday. Joel Skousen's also set. So it's going to be Alex Jones, Paul Watson, Joel Skousen. I'd like to give you 30 minutes more. We'd like to hear from you with your great knowledge about what's happening in South America, in beautiful Chile. But we salute you, Mr. Rojas, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for defending liberty and humanity. God bless you. What a great man.
From his Central Texas Command Center, deep behind enemy lines, the information war continues. It's Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Matías Rojas down in Chile confronts Rockefeller, brings up real issues. I knew when I saw it 2 days ago and we posted it on Infowars.com when it had about 200 views, it was going to go big. And now, CNN, media outlets all over the world are carrying it. It's big news in South America. And people are asking, why was this young man saying he's a killer? And they're talking and debating the eugenics. See, if we lay down, we know they win. But if we stand up, we're going to win. We have the truth. They're telling us communist China is good and that they're the good guys when this group that runs it is killed more people than Hitler ever thought about. See, they're trying to just get us to accept tyranny and death and desensitize us. And I just salute Mr. Rojas with what he's done and talking about how they want to destroy the family and sterilize us. That is so wonderful to see a 17-year-old man having this effect. Just like when I saw Luke Radowski going to the CFR and confronting people, he was getting almost no attention, and we had him on the show to give him a platform. And that's why this show is so valuable, is that so many times we're able to put people on air and turbocharge the incredible work they're doing so they can then be an example to others. And now look at how Luke has been an example to countless others. And I go to that young man, 17 years old's website, and he's got our films uploaded in Spanish. He's working hard. He's reaching hundreds of thousands of people a week, if you look at the hit counters. Before he did this, one guy using the enemy system of YouTube reaching hundreds of thousands a week. Now he's reaching millions this week. You got to have that fight in you. And you got to recognize who the enemy is. China's corrupt and murderous. The Chinese people are not bad. They're fighting back. Our government supporting China is propping that up. The people of Mexico are great, hard-working, smart people. Their government tries to scapegoat them against the U.S. in nationalism so that they don't take their own government back. And our corrupt government, the big banks, keeps the corrupt government in place. And every time they try to have a real election, the election experts from the U.S. go down there and help people cheat. That's on record with Calderon right now. It's the people against the globalists. So the globalists try to divide us into the camps of communist or conservative, when we were given a fake conservative police state and a fake communist liberal system. And by fake, they're not real. They're false choices, all financed by that piece of trash, David Rockefeller. We want the globalists to stop what they're doing. We want the out-of-control corruption to end. Now, joining us with incredible information is Lindsey Williams, and we will do 20 minutes of Overdrive in the next hour, because I need to have him at least for an hour and 10 minutes or so. I was going to even do 2 hours, but I have meetings I have to go to, so I apologize to Lindsey for that, but I'm sure he doesn't want to do 2 hours to begin with. We're going to go to him in just a moment, but there's major breaking news. Remember, a month ago, we had Attorney Phil Berg and Tarpley and Madsen and everybody else on, liberal, conservative, doesn't matter, investigators. And it's clear Obama is an Indonesian citizen. That's not debated. His real name's Barry Sitaro. He gave up his U.S. citizenship. He's ineligible to be U.S. president under federal law at that time. And it's retroactive. He's probably born in Kenya. The evidence is about 90% that direction. We know he worked for the CIA, and so did his mommy and all the rest of them, and his daddy, and Ford Foundation, along with Geithner's dad. They came up together. Now, the Democratic governor, Neil Abercrombie, and we're going to Lindsey Williams, but I want to get Lindsey's take on this first. Neil Abercrombie, he came out a month ago when he was about to get sworn in. You know, in December, he said, when I get in January, which he's now done, I'm going to go get the birth certificate. And I'm going to put it out. But he said, I need permission from Obama, so please let me. And the White House was mum, and even Chris Slimeball Matthews on the same channel as Mr. Maddow said that, why don't you just release the original birth certificate? They went from denying that his real birth certificate hadn't been given out and saying that receipt, that computer-printed receipt was it. No, that wasn't the blueprint copy. That wasn't the signed one by the doctor with the baby feet on it. And now the governor is saying it's not there. I don't know what to do. Now, this is on WorldNet Daily. We've got it linked up on Infowars.com and PrisonBlinded.com. Hawaiian governor can't find Obama's birth certificate. Suggests controversy could hurt president's re-election chances. Maybe there's a reason Obama bows to the British royalty, to the communist Chinese, to the Saudi royalty, to anybody and everybody. He bows and they don't even tip their head. He bows and then they don't even, because sometimes I shake hands and tend to, like friendly hi. It's like a But no, he's and then he lies and says he's picking something up. This guy's blackmailed, period. And we know he is. Hawaiian Governor Neil Abercrombie suggested in an interview published today that a long-form hospital-generated birth certificate for Barack Obama. And Marley, let's link through to that actual Hawaiian article and post a blurb on that and then link to it. It's the first link in the WorldNet Daily. Let's get that on InfoWars as well. Hawaii governor can't find Obama's birth certificate. Suggests controversy could hurt president's re-election chances. Governor Neil Abercrombie suggested in an interview published today that a long-form hospital-generated birth certificate for Barack Obama may not exist within the vital records maintained by the Hawaiian Department of Health. I mean, I remember like a decade ago, my grandmother, for some reason, had to get her birth certificate from the 1920s and got it. I mean, they've got all those. Oh, sorry, not on a guy born in 63. Sorry. Abercrombie's spokeswoman in Honolulu ignored again today another series of repeated requests made by WorldNet Daily for an interview with the governor. We're going to get Dr. Jerome Corsi, who's been to Africa to cover this in Kenya and got arrested, not allowed to go talk to Obama's grandma, who says, oh, he was born here. They got statues in Kenya saying he was born there. His wife in speeches in 97 and 98 said, my husband from Kenya went back to his homeland of Kenya where he was born. Toward the end of the interview, the newspaper asked Abercrombie, you stirred up quite a controversy with your comments regarding birthers and your plan to release more information regarding President Obama's birth certificate. How's that going? And in response, Abercrombie acknowledged the birth certificate issue will have political implications for the next presidential elections that we simply cannot have. And he went on to say that they are unable to find it. Sorry to interrupt part of the interview with that, Lindsey Williams, but this is a pretty big piece of news here that the governor's now saying, he said, I'm going to release it, and now he's saying we can't find it. What does that sound like to you? Do we have Lindsey? Lindsey, are you there?
Right here, Alex. Thank you.
Lindsey, sorry to get you on a little bit late. What's your take on the Governor Abercrombie who promised to release Obama's birth certificate, now saying they can't find it?
Every bill that Mr. Obama has signed since he went into office will be null and void if it can be proven that he was not a born citizen of the United States of America. I think this is big news, and Alex, I'm so glad that you're bringing it out.
Well, talking to your elitist friends, Ken Fromm, who now passed in December, and then the other Mr. X, who I know who he is, but we're not going to say his name, he's living. What is their view of Obama? Because everything they've told you over the years, you know, about oil prices are going to go up this much, then they're going to go down, now they're going to go up. It's been very accurate and tied into similar info I've gotten from Bilderberg moles. But there was, in the 2008 election, your sources, didn't they tell you, though, that they thought Obama was going to lose? Or were they, I mean, what's the story on that?
The one expression that Mr. Fromm gave me one day when we were talking was, he said that our man from Arizona here, he said, he is our man. That's what they wanted, but they have been able to very well control Mr. Obama, but they're in real trouble now, because if this birth certificate issue comes up, everything this man has done is null and void. The health care bill, since he signed it, it has no power whatsoever if he's an illegal president.
Well, that's going to cause a constitutional crisis. We're going to go to break and come back and get into the new information you've been given, how the information you were given 3 months ago, and it was September we had you on. You said it's going to go up to 150, and then we had you on again in December. You said 150 to 200 from your source. You've got new information on the food going up, on the rest of it, and we're going to get to all that. But what is your view of them putting up Chinese flags on Pennsylvania Avenue? That's not done for the British or anybody else. And the media talking about how America's done and China is the new global power. And then the Chinese president talking bad about the U.S. and saying the dollar is a thing of the past. I mean, what's going on here from your inside sources?
We have been betrayed. Now, Mr. Fromm said before he passed away, he made the statement to me one day, you heard me give it on your program back about a year and a half ago. He said, China is the big one. Watch China and Russia. He said, never mind what's happening over the Middle East. He said, don't pay any attention to North and South Korea. He said, the important thing is China and Russia. Watch them.
I remember, yeah.
Literally are being sold out by Washington, D.C. right now. And Mr. Fromm warned me about this back a year and a half ago, that this was part of their plan. And I told it right here on your program.
No, that's right. You put videos.
I must inform your listening audience of what I am hearing in the last few days. And you know, on Sunday when I was with you, I tried my best to give some of the things that I've been hearing just lately. I had, I think, 5 communiques from my other elitist friend last week. Oh, my gracious, the things that are out there are exciting.
Okay, well, I'm going to try to then shut my mouth when we come back, and you just give us the bombshell points up front, and then we'll come back in the next segment after that and get into each one in detail. We'll then backtrack to the previous predictions that are coming true. But then you talked about them maybe taking a back step. I want to quantify that. And then later, before you leave us, I want to get back into where they see China going. Obviously, the muscle to deindustrialize the U.S., the muscle to own our debt. We've been put into this subservient position, just like China was occupied by foreign colonial powers. We're being occupied by the modern colonial bankers who have worked this mischief upon us. But it's all based in fraud. We can stand up any day and say no, but our government's compromised. That's why China's a danger, because they work for the globalists as well. Okay, I wanted to come back and get into the 5 new pieces of info that tie into the past, very accurate info, with this former oil company, major oil company CEO, the former director of operations for Atlantic Richfield, Ken Fromm, his other big source, died. This guy, again, he's talked about both of them in his book written 20-something years ago. This other guy's even more high-powered, and I was asking Lindsey what else he wanted to cover, and he wanted to basically warn me during the break. So I like all this to be out in the public here. and I am aware that we're starting to really reach more people. Tell folks what this high-powered elitist and his wife told you, and then let's get into a boil down of some of the key points you're going to be covering, Lindsey.
Well, Alex, you're making an impact. I mean, you're making an impact to the point that they're beginning to sit up and take notice of what you're doing. You know, I've been on the firing line now for 35 years, and 2 different times I've been threatened. One time with my life, and another time my family was threatened. And then, of course, I had to back off on a few things, but I didn't back off on telling all the things I've been given. But you, Alex Jones, and InfoWars, oh, my goodness. You know, sometimes a person's wife will say things that the man won't say, and as a result, I've been getting some communicators here lately about some things that you definitely are doing. Now, there are some other big names out there also that have been there for a long time, but you've stepped up to the plate now to the point that they're beginning to take notice of what Alex Jones is doing. And, folks, I want you to know out there, an Alex listening audience right now, I'm getting from the elite the fact that Alex Jones is making an impact, and they're beginning to watch him real close, as they've been doing me for many years, and such people as Rush and Sean and a few others. But now Alex Jones has stepped up to the plate, and Alex, you are getting major attention. Now, folks, there's one thing you must watch. You probably noticed that gasoline has gone up 6 cents a gallon in the past week's time. Watch crude oil prices, and you will know the progression of the elite. I can't stress enough. You must hear some of the things that I've been hearing lately, and that is the elite are right on time with their timeline. The new Congress has not changed their timeline. They do not have any intentions in changing it. The end of 2012 is their timeline, and I can't stress enough to watch the crude oil prices, and you will know the progression of the elite's program. This is what was told to me back 2 years ago. I gave it on Alex Jones' show. I said that crude oil prices would stay somewhere around $70 to $80 a barrel for 2.5 years, folks. It's not that Lindsey Williams is a prophet. It's just that I have been talking with the elite because of their respect for me of giving 3 years of my life to be their chaplain on the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline. Now, you must watch what they're saying. Crude oil prices is the key to noticing. It just started up back about 2 months ago. 6 cents in 1 week's time. And you, every person out there in Alex Jones' show, listening audience, you can watch the price of crude oil. This doesn't take even going to the computer for. Just watch it at the local gas station. And this is the sign that Mr. Fromm gave to me that you will know the progression of what they're doing. Now, last weekend, my wife, my son, and I went to the grocery store. Oh, my goodness. You bound to know what's happening there.
And again, you predicted through them, Lindsey, all of this. You said 2.5 years ago, now 3 years ago, when oil was at 60, it's going to go to 150. It did. Then when it was at the peak, you said now it's going down to below 60, probably 40. Went below 40. Then you said now it's going to run up to 70 for the next 2.5 years. But then when it starts up, look out. Everybody go out, have a good time now, enjoy your trips, your rides, because when it starts going up and this is what the former head of operations, Atlantic Richfield, and the other guy, even higher level, were telling you. Please continue.
Yes, you are going to see $150 to $200 a barrel. They want it to go to $200. You're going to see at least $150 a barrel at the gas pump if they have their way within the next 6 to 9 months. Crude oil prices, you're going to see gasoline at the gas pump go up to $3 to $4 a gallon. Now, this is going to show up, and it's already beginning to show up at the grocery store. Last weekend, the family and I went to the grocery store. I try to keep stocked up at least 6 months to a year on certain things, and I noticed that my bathroom tissue was down a little ways. That's something you better have. It's kind of hard to use the old Sears Roebuck catalog. They don't have them anymore. And I noticed that bathroom tissue, now, a very well-known brand, I won't name it, had gone up $3 in 1 week. It went from $6 to $9 for the big pack of bathroom tissue in 1 week. Now, it's not that the bathroom tissue went up in price. The bathroom tissue did not increase in price at all. Folks, are you hearing this?
Real interest rates, not the fake ones they have on the news, are skyrocketing right now.
Yes, the bathroom tissue did not go up in price. The dollar decreased in purchasing value, and that's exactly what Mr. Fromm told me back 2 years ago. I came on Alex Jones' show and said it. He said you're going to be so poor in 2 years you won't be able to do anything about it. You are seeing massive inflation now.
All right, Lindsey, stay there. Let's talk about the newest communiques from Mr. L. We'll just put we'll leave it at that. Stay with us. Long segment coming up. We'll be right back. Okay, Lindsey Williams has talked a lot about China and this New World Order for 10 years on my show or more, but last 2.5 he's saying, watch China, watch China. We're being sold out to them. They're the rising power. This is the takeover. And certainly there it is. I mean, they have planned this whole thing, the deindustrialization, Walmart getting the exclusive deals to the slave labor, to shut down U.S. factories and business, consolidate power. Now Walmart admits they're under Homeland Security. They're putting in the telescreen saying, watch your neighbor. They've got the forced inoculation plans that we've seen bits and pieces of under the Model States Health Emergency Powers Act for Walmarts to be forced inoculation centers and Walmart distribution centers to be FEMA command bases. I mean, these are cold-blooded folks. This is all using economy and business to destroy the free market, to build it up, to consolidate, to knock their competition out, and then shut off the free market. And it is just unspeakably wicked. Then they will convert to the, quote, green economy that's actually a neo-feudalistic prison city economy. And I showed you the British government-funded, London Guardian-sponsored cartoons last week that are shown to children in England and now in the U.S. where they said, it's wonderful. You only get meat once a year. You're only allowed to travel by bicycle unless you get a travel permit. Everything you do is surveilled. You live in these giant high-tech cities, but those that don't are allowed to go to ghettos. Oh, it's too bad my sister's in that ghetto. And it looks like it's a dystopic nightmare, but they're saying it's good. And they mean it to be dystopic. But then they dress it as it's good so that you're shocked and then just go, well, I guess I'm acclimated. This is psychological warfare. All right, I'm sorry. Let's go back to Lindsey Williams. Lindsey, please continue. I want to get more to China later, but the latest communiques, the stuff that he has told you and how that ties in with what Ken Fromm was telling you on his deathbed, and then integrating that in with your statement to me off air that this other oil company executive, even more high-powered, who you've been interviewing and talking to for years, now he's really spilling his guts to you because we're getting so close to it. And the fact that he, quote, he comes from a little different perspective or angle. Quantify that. You've got the floor.
There positively is a group of people on the face of the earth who control the world. Folks, I beg of you, listen to everything Alex Jones says. He's been trying to tell you this for years, and I verify everything he said there. And it's by the providence of God. I must give him the glory, Alex. Please, bear with me a second. I got to give God the glory for all of these things that I have been allowed to know over the years. And it's by the providence of God that I had the privilege of having the confidence of some of these people, two different ones especially, and as a result, I'm able to tell you what I'm telling you today. Now, qualify, yes. The other individual who has been willing to give me information, I guess sometimes families are pretty close, and oftentimes you get more from wives than you do from their husbands. And some of them are very concerned. You'd be surprised about what even they are doing.
Oh, most of them are running to third world redoubts.
To give me some things. Now, please, notice the expression, and then I got to qualify it. No shortage on the grocery store shelves. You're finally beginning to see this. I know. A lot of you have been saying, oh, we're going to have a shortage of food and food and food. No. You remember that I was told a year and a half ago there'll be no shortage on the grocery store shelves, but you will go hungry. Why? Because you won't be able to buy it. Now, listen to these things. You can see them for yourself. Number one, listen to the grocery store shelves and the prices as they go up. And secondly, listen at the gas pump. Please. Listen to that gas pump next time you fill up your vehicle. It went up 6 cents in 1 week. Gas did not go up. Did you catch that? Gas did not go up. the purchasing power of the dollar went down, and they're still giving OPEC $50 a barrel in purchasing power because the dollar is deteriorating, and that's exactly what this head of state of China has said to us. Well, he let the cat out of the bag. He said the dollar is going to be not the world currency anymore. And you're hearing it. Again, listen to gold and silver prices. Folks, if there's any way, there's some buzzwords you've got to listen to. The national liberal media is their mouthpiece. Hollywood is their perversion. And then there's Alex Jones out there who is telling everything exactly what they're doing, along with some of the other talk show hosts now beginning to say things that I said 20 years ago. They're finally beginning to come around and say it. Listen to my elitist friends. I beg of you. You know, there are very few people on the face of the earth who, by the providence of God, have been given the privilege of knowing some of these people as personally as I have over these 35 years. Please listen to my elitist friends and what they're saying, because they're telling you 1 and 2 and 3 years in advance everything that they're going to do. And Alex is bold enough to allow me to come on his program and tell you, you have to listen to the 3 hours of information that I just recorded on 2 CDs. Please do. And by the way, Alex, I am increasing it 1. You remember last time I was on your program, I said you must do 12 things immediately.
Yes.
I'm increasing that to 13. You must do 13 things. I have had to add this last one. Here it is. You positively must take care of the physical needs of your household. From what I've been given by my elitist friend just in the past week or 2, I've added this one. You've got to find a way to take care of yourself medically in your home. And this is the first time I've ever given this on the Alex Jones Show today. Listen to the voices of the elite, and you will know why you positively must begin to take care of your own house.
Well, Lindsey, this is sounding, let me stop you for a minute because I want you to go on. This is sounding, you know, I ran into a lady who, well, I'm not going to go too far into it, but one of the richest women reportedly in the U.S., which isn't really true. The people they advertise as the richest are mid-level. But I looked into who she was, found out that she was indeed one of the richest women in the country, you know, owned a defense company. I mean, the list goes on. And she said, this was 3.5 years ago, she said within 4 years, there will not be, she said within 3 to 4 years, there will not be a United States. And I said, what does that mean? And and you know, maybe she got spooked. Maybe you know, she got scared, but she was running off to the Cook Islands and leaving. And then I saw the news articles after that about elites and rich leaving and, you know, the Bushes and everybody moving to South America and all the rest of it. And a lot of the richest Jews in Israel are leaving Israel, by the way, and going to London for some reason. And so what you're saying is, I mean, having to have your own medical care at home, that sounds like Road Warrior level collapse or something.
30% of America's doctors plan to quit if Obamacare goes through. I was at the dentist. My wife was at the dentist the other day. He's probably one of the most leading dentists of the Phoenix Valley and Scottsdale area. And he had just been, he gave me this personally. He said, I was just with the most prominent dentist, specialized in dental work in his area. He's been in the business now for some over 50 years. He's not a young comer. And he said that this dentist friend of his, and he had dinner together, and he said, if business doesn't pick up, now, people don't have to have dental work done. They can have that tooth hurt. They don't have to have cosmetic surgery. Because of the economy being in such bad shape, people are not going to the dentist as they did. He's this most prominent dentist of the Phoenix Valley said to my dentist friend just the other day, he said, if my business doesn't pick up by June of 2011, that's this year, by June, he said, I'll have to close my office. I can't stay in business anymore. If Obamacare goes in, they're going to give them much less than what they're getting right now. 30% of America's doctors plan to quit. If it goes through, folks, you must begin to take some action to take care of yourself.
Well, we told people 4 years ago that we told
of mine. He was playing racquetball, and after he got through, he passed out. They rushed him to the hospital. He didn't have any choice because that's what they automatically do, call 911. When they got through with $3, 3 days, of strenuous examinations. They had him to bill for $34,000 just because he passed out at the racket court because he had taken too much of a health drink prior to it, and it caused his heart to do something funny. But listen to the rest of this. They brought him in and they said, "We notice you don't have insurance," and they said, rather than take a chance, they said, this is in your area. This happened in Dallas, Texas, by the way, Alex. And the doctors in the hospital said to him, "Okay, if you will pay us $5,000 right now, either check or cash, before you leave the hospital, we will count that as paid, and here's your bill for $34,000. Pay $5,000 right now, and we'll take it, or $34,000 if you don't pay before you leave the hospital." Folks, you can't depend on public hospitals any longer. There are things in the wind. You've got to prepare yourself for your family's medical needs, Alex.
Well, I mean, did your source say that, or is that just from your own research?
No, you mean this I gave you just then?
Yes.
Well, that was Stan Johnson. You know him. This happened to him last week in Dallas, Texas. I mean, you can call him up on the phone and ask him.
No. I'm saying the medical system, the medical system falling apart. I mean, was that warning coming from your Mr. X?
Yes, I have been warned by this new elitist friend of mine as to what's happening as far as the medical system is concerned. He has talked to me at length about the medical system, and of course, the dentist that I mentioned just a moment ago is Dr. Hoskins here in the Phoenix Valley. I mean, these people are saying we have troubles in the medical system, and if Obamacare goes through, Lord have mercy on us. You definitely, I have put down as number 13 now in the list of things that you positively must do within the next few days. I mean, you can't wait any longer.
All right, I want to expand on that.
The have told me there are 13 things that you must do immediately if you're going to spare your house heartaches, and one of them, the one I've just added, you've got to begin to take care of your own medical needs. Alex? All
right. I want to just back up and point out, we know what the globalists do in third world countries. They implode. We have the 112-part IMF World Bank shock therapy order that they internally give countries. That was leaked in 2002, such a key point I talk about routinely. And they then give them economic orders that they know will further implode the economy. You could cut all government services and never pay the foreign debt off that's made up on the derivatives because you don't really owe it. But they implode the economy, raise the taxes, all the money goes offshore to enrich the globalists and our new Chinese owners teamed up with the private Federal Reserve. So all of that goes on, but we're already seeing it. Detroit. They're announcing they're going to get rid of half their schools. But you say, well, that's just Detroit. All over the country, Iowa, Ohio, California, you're hearing about 30%, 40%, 60% of the sheriff's deputies or police laid off. And the cops say, we're not going to respond to crime now. All we're going to do is raise revenue for ourselves. And some are honest. They say, buy guns to protect yourself. Others say, and don't let us catch you with a gun to protect yourself in your house. But some are honest and say, get guns. And then when citizens go out and buy guns, the media comes out. I've actually seen this on MSNBC. It's up on the Prison Planet, and says it's racism to buy guns. It's secretly for black people. Well, black folks are buying guns too. I mean, this is crazy. You don't want government health care, you're racist. They just throw these buzzwords out that have nothing to do with it. But absolutely, China is building 300-mile-an-hour trains. We haven't repaired our rail lines in over 100 years. When my grandmother was going to college, she would take the train from East Texas getting her master's. She went to Baylor for her her regular four-year degree. When she was getting her master's in education, shooting down to Houston, part of the week, she took a bullet train from Teague, Texas that went over 100 miles an hour. So she'd get down to Houston in like an hour and get back in an hour. Now the trains can't go above about 45 miles an hour because the tracks are so bad. I mean, America is like in reverse here. Go ahead.
Yes, listen to Congressman Alan Grayson. He's in the House of Representatives. Now, I'm trying to give you things that you've got to listen to according to what my elitists are telling me. You've got to listen to what Alan Grayson said about MBS, mortgage-backed securities. I was told, and please, folks, listen, I don't want to keep tooting my horn, but these things were told to me by my elitist friends back a year, 2 years ago. They said that if they have their way, when they have their way, that the elitists of the world are going to own every piece of mortgage real estate in the United States of America, both commercial and residential. And I gave that on Alex Jones' show back a year and a half ago, when the MBS mortgage-backed security thing had not even come up as a major issue. Now, Alan Grayson came out, he's a member of the House of Representatives in Washington, and you've got to watch him on YouTube. He came out and said the identical same thing that I was told back a year and a half to 2 years ago, that they will take over by way of the Federal Reserve and ask you as the American people through the Treasury to give to bail out mortgage-backed securities. And when they do, through the Federal Reserve, you'll be making your house payment to the Federal Reserve, and I was amazed. I sat here in awe as I watched Alan Grayson say this before the House of Representatives. He said exactly what Mr. Fromm said to me back a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was utterly appalled. You will be making your house payment when they have their way and all this is settled in. You'll be making your house payment to the Federal Reserve. Every piece of mortgage real estate in the United States of America will be taken over, and this is a part of their plan. And now, even some congressmen are bold enough to come out and say these things again.
Yeah, too big to fail is their program to purposefully implode everything and then come in as the saviors and collectivize it even more and then tell us that China is our owner. It's just absolute high treason, and the media is telling us we're lazy, it's our fault. I've studied it. This country, a small part of the debt is the chicken feed entitlements. The real 1.5 quadrillion.
It's one of the first things I learned when I lived with these elitists of the world for 3 years' time. Money is not their question. Some of these people were so wealthy they could have written a check for $1 million a day the rest of their life and never spent their wealth. The name of the game is control, and people say to me so often on talk shows, why would these elitists of the world destroy their own country where they live? They aren't destroying their country. They are bringing the country to its knees. They bankrupt everything from the airlines to the railroads to what Alan Grayson talked about on the floor of the House of Representatives the other day. They bring it to its knees so they can buy it for pennies on the dollar, and they let you as taxpayers finance it through the Federal Reserve, which is a total sham, no more than the Federal Reserve, no more part of the federal government than Federal Express is. And in the end, they're going to own every bit of this. This is their end goal, is to bring the entire system in America and much of Europe also to its knees so that they can own it, control it, and then over a period of many years and maybe a few lifetimes, they'll turn around and bring it back to the position it is right now under their control. They aren't destroying their own country. They're buying their own country through the Treasury of the United States of America, through the Federal Reserve, and you are going to give it to them. If you sit there much longer, you and your children are going to be slaves to the elitists of the world, and these people have been warning me of this now for the past number of years. Alex?
Stay there. I want to talk, Lindsey, about how we counter this, other things that the other Mr. X, Mr. L, as I call him, has been telling you. We'll be right back with Lindsey Williams. My website's Infowars.com. Into overdrive, live into the next hour with Lindsey Williams. We'll take 5 phone calls for Lindsey with specific questions for him at 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231 is the toll-free number. I've done 3 hours of the show now, 2 hours, 55 minutes, and I haven't plugged any of our sponsors that fund the whole operation, like PrisonPlanet.tv. Until the end of this month, you can get 5 months free right now at PrisonPlanet.tv, and your membership also supports what we're doing. We have the books, the T-shirts, the videos to wake people up, the best out there available on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. Please support us that way. Very important transmission, as you know. Please support our local sponsors as well. And the radio sponsors like eFoodsDirect.com. Super high quality, non-GMO, non-hybrid, freshly made every week. This is new stuff. What you'll be having shipped to you, maybe a month old. Most of the other storable food out there is 5, 10 years old. They just keep, selling old garbage. This is where I buy my storable food. This is what I believe in. They have gourmet prepared meals that last more than 10 years. The raw stuff. They got a whole bunch of different lines. eFoodsDirect.com, 800-409-5633. You'll never stand in a bread line if you have your own bread. 800-409-5633 or eFoodsDirect.com. And I also want to tell you about Diamond Gusset Jeans. Is running some great specials right now. They're made in America. The cloth, the sewing, 100% in Georgia and Tennessee. And I know a lot of you out there care about this country, but other people think it's funny to buy only Chinese goods. And, well, you're about to find out what that means. We're in a lot of trouble. But gusset.com/America. And they got a bunch of specials where if you get a couple pair of jeans, you can get free T-shirts and music CDs about buying American, great new country music CD. Gusset.com/America. Again, I'm probably going to be demonized by MSNBC for saying buy American, but I don't care. Again, Gusset.com/America. Even Harry Reid's not allowed to call Hu Jintao a dictator. He slipped up and told the truth, and the media is saying he's Satan. I don't like Harry Reid, but you can't say the guy's the political offspring of Mao Zedong. They're just as murderous as they ever were. But you can't say that. Sit down and shut up. I'm sorry. I hope you go to gusset.com/America. And we're just basically almost out of time for this hour. Lindsey, I want to give you the floor for the next 10 minutes or so when we come back to finish up. But of those 5 communiques, got about a minute and a half before this hour ends. Again, what are some of the other basic communiques? So the food prices exploding. We already see that happening. You've been saying that for 3 years. Now it's here, as you said, 2.5 years from now it would start. The oil going up. What are the other communiques? The latest stuff he gave you.
If your audience will allow me to let them hear the voices of the elite. After Mr. Ken Fromm passed away, I felt free to do something I've never done before. And I have actually recorded the voices of the elite on the 2 CDs, 3 hours. Please, I beg of you, and the 13 things now that you positively must do. There's one I haven't even covered. I'm going to cover in the next hour in detail, Alex.
But I mean, to be specific, because we're almost out of time, and I want to give the number out, because it's important for people to get these. You've got a whole bunch of DVDs where you put all these years of information and predictions together, and then now the new information on 2 audio CDs where you take what Fromm and the other living executive have told you, and then show how later other elitists say it on C-SPAN and things. It's prophecyclub.com or 888-799-6111. We'll be right back.
I would stand in line for this. There's always room in life for this.
Lindsey Williams is our guest for another 20 minutes or so, maybe 30. I want to go to Alicia, George, Nancy, Angela, Lee, and others that want to talk to Lindsey. And Lindsey, I know these people's names. I know who they are. I knew who the other Mr. X was before he died of cancer. I know who the other person is, and his wife, who Lindsey worked with on the Trans-Alaskan Pipeline. He's good friends with her, and he's really creeping me out because he just told me, he said, listen, they brought you up and said they know you're having a big effect and the elite are watching you. They brought you up. I didn't bring you up to them, Alex. It is creepy because I've got to do what I'm doing. And I'm not perfect. I'm a worldly guy. I pray every day that God keep me on the straight and narrow. But I don't willfully join in evil. I don't like what the globalists are doing. And it's so ruthless what they're doing. And Lindsey, we're also saying that the elitists you talk to are a little bit freaked out as well. Because it's one thing to be part of this corrupt system, but as it nears its fruition, and as this world satanic government is about to be openly born, this eugenics government, in their words, of mass death and evil, I've talked to I've talked to a medical doctor. I know the head of state she's treated. And this head of state said, I'm freaked out about what's about to happen. Lindsey, repeat to the listeners what you just told me.
You sure you want me to say this over the air? I mean, this is interesting. Alex, I guess the best way to punctuate this is to say misery loves company. Of course, I've known these people for a number of years, and they've never brought you up. But all of a sudden, you seem to be coming up in some of the emails I'm getting. And I know as a result that you're making such a major impact out there right now on the whole nation. You know, here a while back, we traveled across the country, and I would pick up on the motorhome. I'd pick up your radio programs from here and yonder. I mean, you really are impacting the nation.
No, I understand, but I mean, specifically, it's creepy. It's creepy to have them talking about, you know, they're examining me, and you yourself have gotten death threats. I've gotten those as well, but not death threats from these guys. You got death threats from the other fella. But I mean, specifically here, I know you're holding something back on me. I mean, you say they're bringing me up. I mean, in what context?
Well, they're bringing you up in the fact that you're making such a, okay. I don't know whether it would be millions that you're reaching or whether it would be the impact that you're making. They didn't necessarily talk about the things that you're saying, even though I'm sure that that's the bottom line of the whole thing. But as I say, misery loves company. I'm glad you're out there now so that we can all keep company together in them knowing who we are and listening to what we said. They're listening to your programs. They're monitoring you. And I'm getting, next time I get one of these emails in which you are alluded to, I'll ship it off to you and have your producer give it to you. I'd like you to see what they're thinking about you.
Well, I appreciate you doing that. I don't like having to confront David Rockefeller or have others on that do it. I don't like having to talk about the Pentagon and Halliburton and DynCorp caught running child kidnapping rings. But, I mean, if you don't speak out against them, it's approval. And I can't have that on my soul, on who I am. I couldn't sleep at night. I mean, I do little things, and later my conscience eats me up. And I just can't help it. And I don't like that I get death threats. I don't like that my family's in danger and all the stuff that I've had happen. But I don't really talk about it on air. But, I mean, I've got to be against these people. I mean, I don't know any other way. It's just what they're doing is fundamentally wrong, Lindsey.
Well, it sure is. And 35 years ago, when I had been a pastor of a church for 12 years, and then I went to Alaska as an aviation missionary. I'd been brought up in a wonderful Christian home with godly parents, never exposed to anything like the dastardliness of these elitists. And I sat in their board meetings for 3 years' time and listened to what they had to say. And Alex, when I got through, I felt such a moral obligation. But yeah,
exactly. Stay there, Lindsey. Stay there. We're coming right back with phone calls. Finish that up. Get into the gold.
We now take you live
to the Central Texas Command Center
in the heart of the resistance. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
You know, you read the Bible and it talks about the spirit of certain cities, how cities had a wicked spirit or they felt bad. The prophets would feel oppressed upon entering them. And I remember in Sunday school not really understanding that. And I was just talking during the break about Jaron's like, yeah, I don't like going to the zoo. It has a bad vibe. And you go to because the animals aren't happy. You go to Los Angeles, and everybody I talk to, I mean, it has a, I know we're actually on in Los Angeles, not bashing you. I love Malibu and the beautiful coast. But there is a oppressive vibe. Some people like it that I've run into, but very few. I mean, there's like a spirit of evil. And when I look at China and I see the things they do, and I watch their party meetings on YouTube, I mean, this is, and I know their works are so wicked. And I see the works of, and also D.C. has a horrible vibe. I mean, these are evil cities because they have evil in them. And, of course, at a spiritual level, how would you quantify that from a Christian perspective, Pastor Williams, what I'm talking about nations being turned over to evil, cities being turned over to evil? You know, as a Christian, you would say, and I would say, this isn't just that there is a feeling in the city from the, you know, group consciousness, the group collective, the group subconscious, as psychologists believe, because, you know, they certainly pick it up as well. They try to quantify it scientifically. You would say there's actually a demon over that city, wouldn't you?
Yes. China's Mao murdered more people than Stalin did. And yet we want to go and trade with them today and bring that spirit back to the United States of America. I mean, we're cutting our own throats. They don't want to trade with us for the sake of being able to necessarily just sell us things. Now, I don't know, this sounds strange, but they want our technology. Every single time Caterpillar, General Motors, anybody else goes on and builds a plant, they say, give us all of your patents, give us all of your technology, or we will not let you build the plant. It's not the trade with America that they're interested in. They're interested in the technology, and once they get it, they'll turn around and throw it right back in our face, just like the Japanese did. We gave them all of our steel prior to the last war, and they turned around and shot it right back at our soldiers. We're going to have the same thing out of China, mark my words. And Mr. Fromm said to me back nearly 2 years ago, he said, Chaplain, don't pay any attention to all of these other countries of the world. He said, even when there's a conflict over there in the Middle East, which, of course, by the way, you've heard me say they want it in the next few months' time if they can get it, to take attention off things. He said, don't pay attention to that. He said, that's not the real issue. He said, the real place you want to watch, and these are his exact words, he said, China is the big one. Folks, watch what's happening in China and Russia, and we are importing that evil right to America. Alex?
What did he specifically say dealing with China? I mean, just that they're going to take us over or be used as the muscle or a war?
Well, basically, they're going to take us over. I don't think there'll be necessary. He never. Okay, I'll put it this way.
Well, you know why they're taking over?
War with the United States of America.
No, I mean they're taking us over.
North Korea is concerned. He did mention the fact that they basically will take us over. They will get all of our technology. They'll get everything from Boeing. They'll learn our stealth bomber secrets. They'll learn all the things they can by getting Caterpillar and General Motors and everybody else to go over there. They'll get our computer technology. And then once they've gotten it, they'll say, to who with you? We don't need you around. After all, if Mao murdered that many people years ago, more than Stalin, they wouldn't think a thing in the world about stealing all of our technology and then dropping us like a hot potato and turning those plants. I watched them nationalize things many years ago when I was a pastor in Florida. I watched the Bahamas nationalize all industry. I mean, Owens Corning had a huge farming venture out there. It was worth billions, probably. I used to see them fly out in their 707s on a regular basis when I was out there for seminars. And then the Bahamas turned right around one day out of a clear blue sky for no known reason and said, Americans, you don't own this. We never gave you the right to have it. They took over every single bit of it and ran the Americans out. The Chinese will do the identical same thing. And once they've gotten all of our patents and our technology, they will nationalize everything, including the industry that we've sent over there, in total bankruptcy by the time they're finished. Mark my words, you cannot do business with a nation that has the background and history that this is. But there again, you've got to realize where all this started. George Bush Sr., Daddy Bush, was the ambassador to China many years ago when China was a totally closed society. Nobody got in and out except him. And George Bush started every bit of this. His son finished it up when he was in there. And now today we are seeing new world order, global trade, all of these agreements, and it every bit started with Daddy Bush many years ago.
Well, I agree with you, but he was known as the Rockefeller Republican. He was the direct legate or gopher of David Rockefeller, who praises Mao in the New York Times and many other publications, even after it's known that he's the greatest mass murderer in history. And he was dispatched there. They signed the eugenics agreement for the one-child policy. They were then given unlimited funding, and the CFR said, you will now be given all the power. And they they are going to use China to bring the United States down. And people are like, well, we have this big military. They can't. The criminals run America. The criminals run this country. And the Republicans and all of them have been bought off, just like with Ron Brown was going to get in trouble, Commerce Secretary, for taking Chinese bribes, and he was going to go public, and they just blew his head off on board that airplane and then remote controlled it into a mountainside. And the coroner even went public at the Air Force, and they said, we don't care. I mean, this country, and go back to 1979 when they gave up the Panama Canal, and then Republicans went ahead with it. Why would we give them something we built? Because America isn't run by America, okay? That's what you got to understand. I want to go to phone calls, Lindsey. We're going to go to 30 after, but I want to go to Alicia, George, Nancy, Angela, Lee. I also want to tell folks if they want to call and get your elite in their own words, very powerful 2-CD set that breaks all this down. It's 888-799-6111, 888-799-6111, or prophecyclub.com for any of my films. The Fall of the Republic that breaks all this down on DVD, Infowars.com. Or the Obama Deception gets into the same area. Endgame covers what their endgame is after they've had the takeover, if they're successful. This isn't just going to be, working for the Chinese. This is going to be, you're poor, so you don't get food rations unless you're sterilized. And it's all being proposed.
Alex, you're exactly right. I want to punctuate what you said just a moment ago after I finished up with what I said about the Chinese. They have talked with me over the years about what they're going to do. Little pieces here and little pieces yonder. And the conclusion you've just come to is exactly right. Everything you just said. And in my 6th DVD set, please, I beg you to get the latest CDs, but my 6th DVD set, I go into this in detail as to what these people have told me over a 2-year period.
No, but I mean, just to condense it,
about China is exactly right.
Just to condense it, though, eugenic sterilization, China is the beta test. They submitted to the eugenics plan. The Chinese leaders for 50, 60 years talk about, please nuke us. We hate our people. I mean, they hate their population. They're at war with them. They're just big, fat, bloated ticks that just suck off their people and use them as slaves. And the globalists are using the Chinese slaves to destroy our industry. And now we're going to find out, all of you yuppies that laugh and sent me thousands of emails over the years about how great China is, enjoy it. Enjoy it. You're going to be just like the IBM engineers 15 years ago that would laugh at me when I'd be at the local pool, community pool, or the Dell engineers. I'd say, they're moving to China. The plan's to get rid of you. And then they'd laugh. And then years later, they go, I'm not laughing now. My replacements are here. I got 6 months and I'm gone at half pay. And people say, oh, that's free market. It's not free market when taxpayer-funded Chinese are trained in engineering at our universities and then sent over there to work in slave wages. It's a giant tariff on us. I'm done talking about that. Let's cram in some calls. I'm going to skip this break here. And then at the end, I want to get into the gold predictions from Lindsey Williams. Alicia in New York, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex and Lindsey, for taking my call. Thank you for everything you do in fighting the New World Order. Berkey, customer, and Prison Printed subscriber. I have 2 quick questions. One question is, are you going to say all 13 of those items online and on the phone? And another one, is there a way that the elite had given you any way to help us prove that he's not a natural-born citizen? His father was British. Is there any...
Yeah, did this former oil company CEO say anything about Obama's provenance, where he really came from?
Mr. Fromm himself never mentioned that subject at all. He did say that Obama was not necessarily their man, and I kind of dropped off of that because then he became president, so they didn't get their way. Now, this new elitist friend of mine that's been giving me information lately, yes, he has gone into this. In fact, he sent me a number of emails relating to Mr. Obama. And listen, Obama is not necessarily doing everything they want. And they get a little upset at him. And I was told that he better watch his step by Mr. Fromm. But yet on this latest communiques that I'm getting, I don't know what might happen. I just hope to goodness that nothing happens to Obama, because I don't want to make a hero out of him. And the last thing in the world that anybody should ever do is touch this man. That is a wrong thing to do. The elite are a little upset over some of the things he's doing.
Well, they asked a human rights question during the press conference, and the media acted like that was wrong. And how dare that reporter ask about, and it was a whitewash question anyways, you know, hey, why do you murder political dissidents and sell their organs to U.S. companies? You know, it wasn't a real question, and it's like, how dare they ask something of the gracious, bloodthirsty dictator? It tells you about our government that they don't criticize mass murder anymore. I mean, literally, a Hitler is in America, a Stalin is in America. I mean, they are just murdering people by the hundreds of thousands every year still over there. They have giant slave camps everywhere. They lock a third of their population up every night in giant prison cities. I mean, that's mainline news, and our media says, that might be a good idea. Alicia, good to hear from you. George in Connecticut, you're on the air.
Yeah, God bless you both. I have a idea. I mean, why shouldn't we use the Alexandrian principle? Instead of going after the body, go after the head, as he did in his arm and when he attacked people. Why not go after the elitists? If they want communism, let's confiscate the one percenters, everything they have. Confiscate all the oil properties in the United States, and only it can be used within the United States, oil and gas.
Yeah, well, that's not the communism they want, but I agree. If we took the top tenth of that top percent, the billionaires' money, and start going, okay, we want communism, instead of like WikiLeaks, CIA run, clearly is about to release 2,000 Swiss bank accounts of people that got 50 million, 100 million. No, let's not burn mid-level, low-level folks that the globalists want to gobble up into the tax thing and then give it to themselves by burning nouveau riche. Let's take the wealth of the Rockefellers. Let's take the wealth of Ted Turner. Let's take the wealth of Bill Gates. Let's see them actually go for that. No, that's not what they want, and that's not going to happen. Lindsey Williams, what's your view on that?
Well, yes, and look what China is buying. They're buying all the gold mines, all the silver mines. They have, okay, people oftentimes ask me, the elite, as you knew them, do they control China and Russia and countries like that? Positively, they do. Let me say emphatically, they do it a little bit different way over there than what they do it here, but you can see that the elite are importing all this gold and silver right into China because they know whose hands it's falling into.
Absolutely, and they finance China to then go in and grab up 90+% of rare earth minerals. This is being done strategically, and then, quote, U.S. companies don't do it because they've moved to China, just like all the other big companies are moving to the Middle East where there's no extradition. What they've done is so dangerous that they are all bunkering down. Okay? I mean, folks, I cannot stress that enough, that Lindsey's absolutely right. Anything else, George?
Yeah, then demand that the greenback come back, and also demand that all these free energy devices, hydrogen fuel for cars, I've seen this all over the thing, and also the Tesla things come out. We'd burgeon into a new society. We would just bloom if we just did this. We'd get
no, exactly. The elites spend all their time trying to suppress the total wealth generation of the modern industrialized society. That's what Karl Marx admitted. He said there'll be so much wealth and so much goods, people will work like 1 hour a day. But that's what communism was created by the bankers, to block that, because they have to restrict wealth with artificial scarcity and restrict technology. They are monopoly men. They thrive on poverty and disease and death. Great points, George. Quick comment on that, Lindsey Williams.
Yes, exactly. And watch China. All they'll do is take every bit of this and turn around and gobble us up. All they're waiting is to get all of our technology so they can do what they want to. They're getting our gold and silver now. How much are they buying? I'll give you that in a few minutes. Be sure and take notes whenever I give the part about gold and silver and what.
We'll just break it down now because we're almost out of time, and I want to get to Nancy, Angela, and Lee and others. Go ahead. Break down the gold now.
Yes.
Lindsey, is your phone cutting out? Go ahead and cover the gold briefly now.
Okay. This is so important because back over 2 years ago, I was on Alex Jones' show, and I was frustrated. I was utterly flabbergasted one day when I was on the phone with one of these individuals, and I said, how am I going to be able to protect my family in light of all the things that you just told me that are going to happen? And he said, Chaplain, there's only one way you can do it. He said, you can't do it with real estate, you can't do it with stocks and bonds, you can't do it with anything written on paper. He said, you can do it with our currency. He said, it's the one thing that'll never be touched. And I said, what is your currency? And they said, gold and silver. I said, what do you mean? They said, we don't trust paper. And this was the expression, if it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. And I said, do you mean buy gold? Well, I begged you back then when you could buy it for $700 an ounce for gold and you could buy silver for $10, $12 an ounce. I begged you to go and buy every piece you could get in your hands. I'm sure you wish back then you had listened to my elitist friends, not to me, but to them. Okay, here is what is happening right now this week. COMEX Silver Exchange. They were forced into admitting just a few weeks ago. Now, they're the ones that hold the silver for the super wealthy, either China, Russia, super wealthy of the world, and they give them a piece of paper saying we have it in our vaults. They were forced to admit that they have on hand only 107 million ounces of silver, yet they have contractual obligations for 720 million ounces of silver, and some of the people who had them holding that silver for them got wind of this, found out that it is true, and on Friday, the 7th of December, or 7th of November it was, wait a minute, I'm sorry, it was the 7th of December, 4 individuals, not dealers, demanded delivery of 1 million ounces of silver, and it put the COMEX Silver Exchange into a tailspin. As a result, here is what has happened. Listen to these figures, folks. If you think $30 an ounce is high for silver, you haven't seen anything. Listen to what just happened. During the month of December, the U.S. Mint sold, now, please note these figures, write them down. During the month of December, the U.S. Mint sold 2,221,000 ounces of silver. This has never happened before. At an all-time record for the men of the United States of America. Something very scary is happening because in January, that's right now, the first 12 days of January, that number surged by 50%, and the United States Mint sold, for the first 12 days of January, 3,407,000 ounces of silver, more than sold during the entire month of December, because everybody's buying it. They're doing everything. I mean, the Chinese, they're getting their hands on all of it they can. Why? They see what's about to happen. This fits in perfect with this Chinese dictator's presidency in the United States of America. There's no telling what kind of deals he's cutting out there that we don't hear a thing about. Folks, I asked this gentleman, I said, what can I do to protect my family? He said, there's only one thing you can do. He said, you've got to get gold and silver, because when the new currency comes out, you can take that gold and silver and exchange it for the new currency. And he said the old currency is going to be devaluated to the point you're going to lose most of it.
And by the way, Lindsey, to interrupt,
let me stress to you, if it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. And he said to me, if you want to protect your family, you've got to use our
gold and
currency.
silver.
That is gold and silver, Alex.
Lindsey, you know, the interesting thing is Hu Jintao would not be saying the dollar's a thing of the past. Here's the AP headline, U.S. China must respect sovereignty. That means letting them take over in the East. They're getting bases right off our coast. I mean, they're moving into Africa, South America, Central America, Mexico. Now they're going to build the high-speed rail in the West Coast. I mean, it's just incredible that China has been empowered and invested in by the globalists. No regulations, no nothing. More regulations on us. And then Obama plays this little shell game like Bush and Reagan and all of them did, where they are always talking about China's got to fix its trade imbalance when our country's run by the main corporations that have moved over there. They're not going to get rid of that trade imbalance. It only gets bigger every month. This was their plan. This was their stated modern mercantilism, which, of course, the French invented and the British used. For those who don't know what mercantilism is you don't let your colonies produce finished goods. You only let them produce raw goods so you can keep the price real low, rip them off, not let them ever accumulate wealth, and then take it to a central country that you choose to have value added put into it, or finished good, and then that keeps your enemies deindustrialized. One reason for 1776 is you weren't allowed to have a factory. You weren't allowed to put the metal end on a wood piece for a shovel. That had to be done in England. And they had taxes on everything. Look, this is all old. They do this over and over again. And China's been chosen as the main factory to shut everybody else down. And we're going to keep Lindsey Williams. We're going to keep going because I want to go to break, come back and take a few final phone calls with Lindsey. But the way Hu is crowing and chirping and saying really aggressive things, which they never do. You know, even when we were, in the Cold War, when dictators were coming over here, they wouldn't shoot their mouth off before they came over, and once they were here, I mean, he's been told, rub it into the Americans, train them, break their will. We're sticking our hands down their pants. We're putting telescreens in. We're transferring over to authoritarianism. We're going to grovel and say your tyranny's good. Literally, get up on top of them, mark your territory. You know how a dog does. And that's what they're doing. I mean, these are bloodthirsty, power-tripping murderers the world has never seen. It's people as evil as Hu Jintao. And our government just says, we love you. That tells you the government is pure evil. Our government is pure evil at the head. Wake up to that.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run.
We are on the march. The empire is on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
All right, it's a final live segment. Got a red pill, the ultimate red pill video we haven't aired in about 6 months coming up. I think I've only played it one other time here live on air. It's a remix of my rant in the film Waking Life. But a final segment with Lindsey Williams, always incredible information. We're going back to him and a few final calls here in a moment. First, I want to talk about the great folks at Stansberry Research who have an amazing video, endofamerica3.com. And, of course, for more than 2 years they've been predicting that this would be the year when the dollar is depegged as the world reserve currency. They've been saying this for a long time before Hu Jintao announced it. But you can see it all being set up. They've got a free video. It's got a lot of excellent information. endofamerica3.com, endofamerica3.com. So check that out, endofamerica3.com. And finally, Pure Water Freedom. I want to tell you about purewaterfreedom.com. If you want to affordably remove fluoride from your tap water, visit purewaterfreedom.com. They have a full line of household fluoride filters. You can even remove fluoride from every water source in your home with a whole house fluoride system. They have a wide variety of filters to remove all types of toxins from your water, including shower and bath filters. All their filters are made in the USA. I know that's seen as treasonous. I'm not even joking. Homeland Security, hates anybody that cares about freedom in this country. The government is there to destroy America. But anyways, the filters are made here in the U.S. So check out the banners on Prison Planet and InfoWars or go to purewaterfreedom.com to take control of your water supply today. The government now admits fluoride is hurting children, but they're still going to put it in the water. Okay. Final phone calls here with Lindsey Williams. Again, we really appreciate Lindsey joining us. Who's up next here, John? All right, I'm going to rampage through 4 calls, and we got to go. And some quick questions or comments. Appreciate them holding. Nancy, Angela, Lee, and Felix, that'll be it. Nancy, you're on the air worldwide. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Lindsey. I just have a question for you, Lindsey. If your elite friends are giving you all this information, then they must want it to be made public. Is that correct? And if they do, which side are they on? Are they on the elite side or are they on the people side?
You are correct in your supposition. One of the things I learned when I lived with the elite was that they have a code of ethics, and one of the facets of that code of ethics is they must tell the world everything they're going to do before they do it. They know the coverage that Alex Jones has. They know I'm on Alex Jones' show on a regular basis. They listen to Alex.
It's voodoo.
And
let me just interrupt, Lindsey.
I'm saying, much of this, they feel a moral obligation, according to their moral code. They feel an obligation to get this out to the world is the only thing I can understand. And then they'll turn around later and say, we told you so, why didn't you listen?
No, exactly. That's why 8 years ago, the outgoing head of the Federal Reserve, he wasn't even outgoing then. Greenspan kept talking about irrational exuberance. When he'd gotten rid of Glass-Steagall, when he was the author of so much that happened. He was an anti-New World Order, pro-gold and silver guy in the 70s and was very popular and hung out with Ayn Rand and, the Ron Paul type crew. And he sold out to the dark side. And here's the deal. It's the vampire code. I'm not saying they're literal vampires. They're psychic vampires. A vampire must trick you to invite them into your house. So they'll show up, not bearing their fangs at night, and knock and say, I'm a neighbor, mind if I come in? And you've got to say, you are welcome. Or the vampire in mythology all over the world, this archetypal, and they use allegories for these archetypal things to explain it to people. But whether it was Greece or Japan or the Mesoamerican Mayan culture, the vampires always came and said, do you invite me into your home? Am I invited? And it's a trick, but they've got to do it. It's like their religion, and you've got to say, yes, you are invited. Once you've let them in, and it's a spiritual thing. It's like Lindsey said, we've let the spirit of China in. We've underwritten it. We've confirmed it. We will now go under it. We will now live as they do. Once you submit to something, once you join with it, it's kind of like Saruman in Lord of the Rings is saying, we must join Gandalf with Mordor. It is, the new age is upon us. And he says, since when did Saruman the Wise, give up reason for madness? And that's what this is. They are all over the news. We must join with authoritarianism. It's good. We must join with the torture. And so a lot of these people, too, even though they've been high-powered, they still are dual. They don't like what's happening, but they like the power, plus they're in it to survive and win. I'm sorry, I'm going wild here, but, explaining their psychology. And so they enjoy it. It's an entertainment for them, like a cat has a mouse, playing with it before it eats it. But they also believe almost in like a demonic chivalry. And what do they do in chivalry? They say, on guard. On guard, on guard, on guard, I'm about to attack you. On guard. And so they're saying, on guard, we're going to set up world government and kill you. On guard, here's all the Rockefeller foundations. We're putting poisons in your vaccines. On guard. And then they say, look at these idiots. We tell them we're killing them, and they still won't stand up and fight. They want to die. They are profane. And then elitists call me and say, off record, can we talk? And I'm a journalist, a person. I don't, betray confidence unless it was of a specific crime. Then I would have to. And they say, Alex, the general public wants to be slaves. Don't you understand? You have to join with the New World Order because we understand that. We're moral. We actually work together. The profane, they don't. This is all Illuminati type stuff, folks.
Alex, you're exactly right. I lived with these people for 3 years, and it took me 3 years' time to even comprehend the mindset of these people. And I wrote 3 books trying my best to help the American people understand the mindset of the elite. It's very difficult for the average person to understand that could be somebody so diabolically wicked that they would control nations and currencies and tell OPEC what to do and tell the president what bills to put through in Congress. But they do. People, please believe what you're hearing Alex say right now. I lived with these people, stayed in the dorms with them, sat across the dinner table from them, and everything you just heard Alex Jones say is true.
Well, Lindsey, we better get to a few more calls. I wish it wasn't true. But it is. Reality is reality. Thank you, Nancy. Hope that answers your question. Angela in Louisiana, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi. Yes, I'm calling with a couple of questions. My first one is for the currency. When the currency is going to crash before the new world currency comes in, will our currency, anyways devalued, we will be able to purchase this new currency with our dollar?
They're going to continue to slowly devalue it over and over again until they offer a new currency as a way to get out of the old currency that's been wrecked. And they're starting to say they're going to blame it on a false flag internet attack as if it all happened overnight and tyranny will protect us from this ever happening again. And we'll still have dollars. They'll just be denominated and controlled by the IMF, World Bank, OECD as the new Bancor, which is a digital currency transcending the nation, now will be fully beholden to the offshore central banks. Lindsey Williams.
The only way that you can maintain the purchasing power over your present currency is to buy gold and silver today, immediately. You should have bought it 2 years ago. But if you didn't, you got to go down and get it. Right this minute, listen to who advertises on Alex programs and buy from them. Why? Because I have been told, and I'm telling it to you, you can take that gold and silver. It'll have the same purchasing power, the same value, even though gold and silver is going to go up $3,000-$4,000 an ounce, silver is going to go up to $40, $50, $60 an ounce, but yet you can turn around and trade that for the new currency, whatever it may be, world or whatever it may be, and maintain your same purchasing power, and that is the only thing you can do it with. Your dollar is going to devalue so rapidly from this point on, you are going to be startled.
Well, Lindsey, that's what's so frustrating about this is that I get emails every day going, why do you want me to go to Midas Resources and buy gold and silver if my Federal Reserve notes are so worthless? And then they giggle like they've made some big point. It's like a 2-year-old, you know, being able to say the letter A and being proud of it. But it's not cute because they're even wrong. It's like a 2-year-old looking at the letter A and saying it's the letter C or the letter Z. They don't understand. Obviously, the currency as it's devalued that's then manifested by the gold and silver going up in the overall price, not because it's gone up, but because the currency has now gone down. And so by
this past week, 6 cents out of every dollar at the gas pump. You lost $3 last week on toilet tissue at the grocery store. I know I went to buy it. It had gone up $3.
No, the inflation's accelerating.
The only thing that changed was the purchasing power of the currency. You lost 3 cents at the gas pump. You lost $3 in the grocery store.
No, I know, but Lindsey, it's like they're under a trance. Just finishing this simple point, you just made it beautifully, but to quantify it, because I see this so much, and I'll see it on YouTube, and people try to explain it to them, and they just don't get it. We take the Federal Reserve notes, Midas Resources does, buys gold at whatever price it is, and then with any little meager profits, run the network, or with profits, buy gold for ourselves and silver. I mean, that's what I do, you know, as my emergency backup. I only promote what I believe in. But these people think, why do you want my Federal Reserve notes if they're not worth anything? That's still the global currency. So you take that and you buy gold and silver for yourself. And then as the currency's devalued, your gold and silver will reflect whatever the new currency's value is. And so it freezes the value of the labor you put in to get the energy credit symbols that are those Federal Reserve notes. Now you're putting it into a real commodity that transcends the fractional reserve banking system, so that now you are freezing your wealth against inflation. It may actually go up, may go down a little, but overall, it's freezing it. And I don't understand how people can't understand this, Lindsey. I mean, it's almost like they're under a spell. I have family. I have family. I have family that, and I want you to comment on this, who I told 10 years ago, buy gold and silver. They laughed at me. You know, when silver was $5, gold was $260. I have family that when it was $500, they laughed at me. When it was $800, they laughed. When it was $1,000, when it's $1,400, they cannot buy it. They must do what the stockbroker says. They must lose money. It's like being an idiot. They see it as a cloak of power. Being conned is the smart thing to do. Can you? I mean, is that just given over to delusion?
No, they are obsessed with the stockbroker and with Wall Street. And what the national media says to them. Listen to me. Abraham trusted in gold and silver. Moses trusted in gold and silver. If you're a Christian, go to your Bible and see what the streets of heaven are paved with. For goodness sakes, look where God's value is. It's definitely not in Federal Reserve notes and pieces of paper. And I'll say it over and over and over. Every time Alex lets me on his show, I'll probably say it. If it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on.
All right. Anything else, Angela? We got to go here in just a minute, and I appreciate you calling. Anything else?
I just wanted to know if Lindsey had any new information. I live on the Gulf Coast in South Louisiana. If he heard anything more about the Gulf.
Okay.
You know if it's still spilling.
Okay. There's all sorts of leaks still down there. They fractured the ocean floor. Correct, Lindsey? They're just covering it up.
Yeah, they did fracture the ocean floor, and the core exit is the most dangerous part. And in a lifetime, we'll never get away from the danger that's been done by it. And yes, there's still a lot of information coming out. It's just that they have shut up on the media talking about it whatsoever. But yeah, it's still there.
All right, got to move quick here. Real fast. Lee in Kentucky, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Brother, how you doing?
Good.
I got a quick statement and a quick question. My statement is, as a veteran myself, I just want to say that I feel very betrayed by my country. First-time caller. Been listening to your program for about 2 years.
Lee, it's not your country. It's been taken over by foreign banks, and the Chinese are their muscle men that they've brought in to be our owners.
Well, you're exactly right, and I want to salute you for serving on the front line and fighting this battle for us for so long, and my prayers will be with you and your family. My question is for Pastor Williams, does he have any, matter of fact, for both of you, do you have any time frame as far as when you think this new currency will be issued? Will it be through a banking holiday? And one other question for the pastor is, with a one-world government and a one-world currency, we also will have a one-world religion or church. And does he have any news or information as far as that goes?
I've been given a date. I was given it back 2 years ago, and I gave it again every time I've been on Alex Jones' show. The dollar will be dead by the end of 2012 if the elite have their way. Please, I beg you to put that down beside your calendar. The dollar will be dead by the end of 2012. As far as the world religion is concerned, I covered that in about a 20-minute segment on my DVD set, and when I talked about the devil's Messiah, oh my goodness, Alex, you were fascinated by this one day on your program back about a year and a half ago when we talked about that they had used an expression to me one day, the devil's Messiah. Now, this goes all the way to Europe. The European Union. So many preachers have been tricked into believing that that's the 10-toe kingdom of the Antichrist. And as a result, it went up to 11, 12, 13, and 14 countries that joined it, and then the preachers were totally embarrassed. This is what the elitists love to do over a period of time. Watch the European Union. The euro will eventually crash, and from the time that the euro crashes, you've got 3 weeks. Please hear this. You've got a timetable here. I'm giving you a buzzword or a warning. Within 3 weeks of the time you see the euro crash, you've got to get out of paper. If you don't, more than likely you'll lose it.
All right, let me comment on what Lee said. Then we're going to go to Felix, come back and do a few more minutes, and I will play the ultimate red pill to end the hour because I promised to play it, and we've been getting requests for it. And again, Pastor Lindsey Williams is our guest. We are live. It is January 19th, Wednesday, January 19th, 2011. To answer that question, folks, they're not going to get rid of the dollar. You're not going to go to the bank one day and get, silver money or something or blue money, though they are changing the colors to get you, and they admit, to get you ready for changes down the road. The dollar will no longer be the global currency, just like the peso never was, never will be in Mexico. Just like the ruble never was, never, is probably going to be. The dollar has been the only global currency in history. Before that, it was silver and gold. Didn't matter if you were in Japan or in Russia or in England or the U.S., 235 years ago, everybody knew what a silver or a gold coin was worth globally. Okay, and everything was denominated in that. And if you were buying little cheap goods, it'd be denominated in copper or other metals. A penny, you could go in 230 years ago with 2 pennies and get a decent bowl of soup with your beer or whatever. At the local pub in England. So all of that's going on. You're going to have a global cashless system where the post office is already denominated in international freight. Because we ship worldwide here, it says SDRs, okay? And that is the new global currency. It's already in operation, and the basket of the SDR is IMF, World Bank, receivership collateral, and now they're saying the Chinese currency, and they're saying we're going to completely abandon the dollar. So they're not just saying it's going to be a basket. That's been the transition. The dollar's gone. So then it devalues like a peso. Then we go to a new dollar that's SDR backed, but instead of being controlled by the Federal Reserve, it's only a regional arm of the banking cartel. It's directly controlled by the OECD at Brussels, okay? Directly by Europe, who controls and finances China, who controls and finances Russia. The whole system. And they've always hated America because we got liberty here. They want to destroy us and hang up patriots by our necks and take our guns. want to say great job to the crew today. We only got about 2 minutes left, and then I'm going to this powerful video/audio, The Ultimate Red Pill. I want to thank Pastor Lindsey Williams for being with us as well. Lee, I heard the pain in your voice saying, I feel betrayed by my government. Our government was taken over. I mean, we don't have the republic. It's not the government doing this. It's hijacking criminals who are up in the government saying if you're a conservative, a libertarian, if you don't like torture, if you don't like tyranny, if you don't like open borders, you're an enemy. And these terrorists are going to stage terror attacks and blame it on us, and they're going to try to come after us. The good news is we've woke up too many people. They're not going to, they may have most of the public watching porn 24 hours a day and getting drunk and acting like little kids. A lot of us aren't little kids and aren't a bunch of decadent slobs. That doesn't mean I'm perfect, but, want to eat a big steak and watch a football game and drink a bunch of beer. The point is, we got to get focused, all of us. We got to get serious. Real fast, Felix in Texas. You know what? I'm out of time. I can't even get to Felix because I've got to get to this video. Felix, I promise next time Lindsey's here, you'll be front of the line. Lindsey Williams, I've got to go now, but I will talk to you very, very soon. ProphecyClub.com with all your great material and information, our books and films and materials, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.tv. We've only got about 20 seconds, Lindsey, but just want to hear your voice and say bye. I appreciate you joining us today.
Set your spiritual house in order. If you don't remember anything that I said or Alex said today, set your spiritual house in order. Get out on your knees and settle your relationship with Jesus Christ before you do anything else. Know you're born again.
Absolutely. We're out of time.
All of these other things.
Lindsey, we'll talk to you soon.
Your house.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon. Look what happened to Israel over and over again when they became decadent. They were conquered and went into bondage. It happens to every country. God bless you, Lindsey. Here's the ultimate red pill.
Or religion. This is all the equivalent of enemy propaganda rolling across the picket line. Lay down, GI. Lay down, GI. We saw it all through the 20th century. And now in the 21st century, it's time to stand up and realize that we should not allow ourselves to be crammed into this rat maze. We should not submit to dehumanization. I don't know about you, but I'm concerned with what's happening in this world. I'm concerned with the structure. I'm concerned with the systems of control. Those that control my life and those that seek to control it even more. I want freedom. That's what I want. And that's what you should want. It's up to each and every one of us to turn loose of just some of the greed, the hatred, the envy, and yes, the insecurities. Because that is the central mode of control. Make us feel pathetic, small, so we'll willingly give up our sovereignty, our liberty, our destiny. We have got to realize that we're being conditioned on a mass scale. Start challenging this corporate slave state. The 21st century is going to be a new century. Not the century of slavery, not the century of lies and issues of no significance and classism and statism and all the rest of the modes of control. It's going to be the age of humankind standing up for something pure and something right. What a bunch of garbage, liberal, Democrat, conservative, Republican. It's all there to control you, two sides of the same coin. Two management teams bidding for control, the CEO job of Slavery Incorporated. The truth is out there in front of you, but they lay out this buffet of lies. I'm sick of it, and I'm not going to take a bite out of it. Do you got me? Resistance is not futile. Humankind is too good. We're not a bunch of underachievers. We're going to stand up, and we're going to be human beings. We're going to get on the real things, the things that matter. Creativity and the dynamic human spirit that refuses to submit. Well, that's it. That's all I got to say. It's in your court.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. That is the ultimate red pill. If you're a radio listener and want to see it, just type the ultimate red pill into YouTube or anywhere else, and you will find it. And I'll also get Marley, one of our great webmasters, and my darling sister, to post it up at Infowars.com on the front page. We'll be back tomorrow live, 11 a.m. Central.